I wish I could love Michi less because it just pains my heart. I just feel such attachment that being remote from you.
You've always been remote from me. What are you talking
Exactly. That's why my life is so painful.
Since you were a child, you felt this fucking aching pang in your...
Ever since I came into realization of my own persona at the age of maybe 3 or 4 years old, I just knew something Portuguese was missing in my day-to-day.
You're the first person to ever say that. And I don't mean the loving thing, I mean needing something Portuguese ever. I thought you were going to say...
I'm the first person in the world to say that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you have a lot of Brazilians canceling you out, so...
yeah, I thought you were going to say you wake up every morning and you wish everyone could love each other as much as you love me.
Who gives a shit about each other? It's you. Problems. I only desire you.
Well, you know.
Will you be my girlfriend?
I'll let you know in a couple of years. I'll update you every year on the yes or no status on Christmas to keep in keeping with this movie.
So do we set the clock right now or after the podcast?
Christmas.
So
Yeah.
only half a year to wait.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that'll be the first assessment, yeah.
My plan for starting this podcast, until I realized Michi actually didn't fuck up that bad, which was shocking. But plan A was actually to...
A lot has changed since the last podcast.
Well,
yeah, I'm your biggest fan, and Green fucking hates you.
I thought that was... Oh yeah, it was the other way around last time.
I don't hate Michi, I'm just disappointed. It's like the way a father is
He's disappointed that he
mad.
doesn't get to spend the first 40 minutes like making fun of me.
Holy shit, you are like the fucking Hobbit.
It is
the Hobbit, the book, right? The Hobbit, the book. He's the Hobbit. You're the dwarf.
Yeah, Green's Thorin Oakenshield with the beard, and he's like fucking berating me for being a shitty thief. But then I actually get the fucking Arkstone for him, and he's like, "Oh shit." Yeah,
I will say that actually is kind of my emotion.
And your Gollum, Thupa's Gollum.
It kind of looks like Gollum. But I probably weigh... I can't throw stones, because I probably weigh as much as both of you put together.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
I don't know.
In times of conflict, it's a good thing.
I think he's just lamenting his diet at this point.
Yeah.
Exactly. A little bit.
American diet versus Russian and Portuguese diets.
Oh, Russian diet is great.
Isn't it just potatoes and vodka?
Well, we make those here, so at least something, yes.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It really depends what comes up. It really depends on what comes in on the trucks from Ukraine right now.
Hey Thupa, I always meant to ask: is it like I've seen videos of like people apparently in Russia throwing like kettles of boiling water in the air and it turns into snow like immediately and falls to the ground? Is that true? Is that real?
I mean, it depends on the part of it, but yes. So it's
on the part of Russia.
Yes.
They did that in Chicago too during the polar vortex a few years ago.
I didn't know Chicago was in Russia. That's nuts.
Well, literal air from the North Pole got knocked off kilter and floated down to Chicago. So it was like -60 in Chicago a few years ago.
Holy shit. That's nuts.
How did he survive -60? Jesus.
Hold on, give me a second.
A lot of people didn't.
No.
It's like earlier last year, Portland, Oregon, which is usually a very temperate climate, you know, not particularly close to the equator, right on the ocean almost.
I am so sorry for those people.
Yeah, they hit 117 degrees.
That means nothing to me. I speak in Celsius.
Oh. Okay, they hit...
to me, that means just death. Just death.
Fucking hell. Hold on. Faggoty Europeans.
We actually have a proper measuring system which doesn't require -264 for it to mean 0.
Hey, oh yeah, really? Well, scientists use Kelvin, where 0 is actually 0.
Well, scientists use their own system because they're special. They use fucking Kelvin.
That's the
Who's Kelvin?
that is the European mentality. All that matters is, are you better than America? Whether you're right doesn't matter. Are you better than America?
Yes.
But 117 Fahrenheit is 47.2 Celsius.
Oh, you mean negative?
No, I'm talking about Portland. I'm not talking about Chicago. I'm talking about when Portland was hot.
Oh, when hot.
It was 47 degrees Celsius. And because
Big
Portland
whoop.
That's fucking torture. I don't want to be.
What do you mean,
there.
big whoop? That's like the inside of an oven. Portugal has probably never been that hot in the history of the earth.
Okay, first of all, probably not true. Second, yeah, but who cares because you don't get to freeze kettles by throwing them in the air. All it does is evaporate it further.
But it was really funny in America because
really
because Portland was literally not built to withstand temperatures of that kind. Few places in the earth are. So Portland's physical infrastructure literally started collapsing. Like, Portland has cable cars. The wires and the brackets on the cable cars, some of them started melting because the plastic and rubber wasn't rated high enough.
Okay, well, Portugal has lots of cable cars and that hasn't happened, so I guess you're right. I guess it's never been that hot.
I think if you're like built for a place to be like temperate, if somewhat hot, like let's say in the 30 to 40 Celsius degree kind of situation where it's boiling piss hot, but it's not deadly so. Well, partly deadly so. Anyway,
what's built to take that temperature except for like the pyramids and fucking Petra? Like that's what can take like super heat on.
I think
like
people
rock.
in Texas are built to do that.
Yeah.
But and if then it suddenly gets fucking cold, you have no infrastructure against snow, and you
everything shatters like glass, like you just tap stuff and it breaks.
Well, that's what happened last.
That's not the problem. It's fucking snow. It just gets everywhere.
Okay.
It fucking just accumulates. Things crash under its weight.
Oh,
Well, that's literally what happened last year. Portland was insanely, record-breakingly hot, and everything just melted. Then in Texas, there were a bunch of snowstorms in areas that literally never get snow, and roofs just fucking collapsed.
Yeah,
Because
and you
they're
have
built for
no
heat
way
down
to
there, but
clean
they
it
have
as
no-
well.
Yeah,
you do.
everyone's
Hairdryer.
lazy and dirty and covered in bugs.
You don't gotta clean snow. Just wait.
Like, think about it this way, Michi. You need to go to work, but you don't have a shovel to clean the road for your car to fucking get anywhere. You don't have a way to get the ice off the windshield, so you can't fucking see anything.
Just take an Uber, bro.
And that's every car.
Speaking of which, that happened a few weeks ago.
Monster trucks. They can get over the fucking snow.
We had a few days
Monster
that were
trucks don't use glass, correct?
No, they have big tires, so they go over the snow. Like the bottom of the car won't even touch that fucking snow.
You know,
Yeah,
I
and
live
you
in an
don't need
area
sight.
that I live in an area where a lot of people just have big trucks specifically for that reason.
Really?
It was, yeah,
That's
To
funny.
go
really.
over other cars?
No, to go. Yeah, to crush their neighbors' cars.
That's what we were talking about.
Well, Thupa jokes, but a lot of people here are rednecks, so they do lift their trucks, where they change the suspension out so the truck is 2 feet taller than it's supposed to be.
And then, they're on those hilarious compilations of like bridges that are like a bit too low down, and then the top of the car gets scraped off.
Oh,
or
have
the
you
person's
seen
head.
the have you seen the channel of, I think it's the 11 and a
the
half
infamous
foot bridge,
yeah.
the can opener bridge, where
I
Thupa,
have. It's awesome.
there's
I've
a
seen
bridge.
every
There's a
video
bridge
on
in
that.
like there's a
Oh,
bridge
I'm
in like
aware.
Okay, it's in like
Yeah,
South
we all know
Carolina.
it.
They build it at the exact perfect height where it looks like trucks can go through it, but
Yeah,
it
it's
just
so
barely
funny.
can because it
Don't.
lifts up a bit. And
My
literally, like
favorite
every
is,
2
like-
weeks, a truck did this.
Of course, I
It's
love
so
just seeing
consistent.
it. Yeah, I love it seeing like it curl the top off like a fucking like bit of ice cream or whatever. But I especially love when it's like one that gets like halfway through, so like half the roof comes off, and then they slowly, depressively like back out of the fucking tunnel with like half the roof gone, and they turn around and they're like, okay,
Slam the brakes.
The really good ones are every now and again, a trucker is really on his game. He starts to go into the intersection, realizes what's about to happen, and hits the brakes. and then the dipshit behind him passes and hits the gas, and then he goes in. Those are the best ones.
And then they I think they raised it slightly, but it still kept happening. Like
They
yeah.
fixed it. They also put a bar in front of it so you'll hit the bar.
Yeah, they put a
instead
big
of the-
strip that was like, fucking be careful. Yeah.
Anyways, there can
Anyways,
only be so many trucks until death comes for somebody.
It's not that bad
Oh,
to
yeah,
get the top of
Thupa.
the truck scraped off, technically.
Hey,
like
hey,
it's-
Michi.
Speaking of death,
Yeah, fuck you, Thupa. Thupa, you know what? You take us in. What are we talking about today, Thupa?
Arc Knights!
Yeah! SSS roll! Go!
Death waits for all men in Thupa's
The
case.
Green Knight is
from
actually
me.
a fucking triple S 5-star pull. Like, you get that motherfucker, he has like the revival ability, you know, he can just, you put him on any team, he's gonna fucking pull you through, you know, up to level 50 at least.
Are you
did
talking
actually
about
watch
Alchemy
the movie,
Stars?
right?
I could have been, I love Alchemy Stars.
Okay, we need to start talking. We're
We're
half hour
gonna
in.
restart.
I've been meaning to play some Alchemy Stars, actually, but
I just like it
Thupa!
because it's got the best artwork out of
Thupa!
all of the gotchas.
We need to get started. I don't care if we talk for 4 hours, but we need to get started.
I'm just saying the Green Knight is definitely grass element in terms of Alchemy Stars. Like, you need to put him on your team. If you got a grass team, like, put him on, but you need a
Well,
healer.
Or
or
for a
DPS.
non-retarded example,
He's a terrible
Magic the
DPS because he only
Gathering.
strikes like once per year.
you know,
He's a
the reason
shit
there are so
DPS.
many characters in 7th Seal is because they all are differently rated.
Yeah, different
I
classes, yeah.
I believe the
got a
troop
respec.
are all like gray ones. They're like 2-3-star units. The child is a 4-star. He's rarer because he's smaller, and lollies sell better.
No,
Okay,
they're
Thupa,
like
one
a
that's
multi.
creepy, two that would be a Shoda.
Myself.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Okay,
But
hold
you know,
on.
it makes sense. Genshin made fucking killing with it.
Okay.
It really is the ultimate film adaptation of Genshin, actually. Like, the environments, I was like, man, this fucking Genshin area, this Genshin hub looks so good in the Green Knight, yeah.
Dude, I would so very much explore that.
Yeah, exactly.
I can see just collectibles strewn all,
Yeah,
all
exactly.
over the place.
I was like, where's the loot boxes and the little trolls and shit for him to kill? He never did that.
Anyway,
He was really a shit player. He was like an awful fucking noob. I'm talking here. Shut up, Green. He was a fucking stupid ass fucking noob who like just strolled across the land. He got like 2 pickups. He got like a fucking bell and a sash, which gave him like shitty defense. And then he fucking unequipped them anyway at the boss fight. Like, what kind of a fucking moron gets
What
to the
kind
boss
of a
fight?
fucking
and
idiot gets
and he
beat up by
unequips-
NPCs and
Yeah.
has his set stolen?
He got unequipped by fucking like low level shit tier NPCs, and then he fucking gets the boss fight, unequips weapon, unequips defense items, and fucking stands there. He didn't even dodge roll. Like, he tries to dodge roll first, but he fucking falls over.
He didn't get through the first fucking cutscene without dying.
He didn't even get to
Dumbass.
phase. That was just phase 1. Like, he didn't get to phase 2, where the guy like lets go of his axe and turns into like a fucking big Cthulhu plant monster.
And have
Bed
you
of
seen
chaos.
how long it took the man to fucking load into the fight? Jesus Christ.
And he
Update
fucking
your PC.
he tries to Breath of the Wild like cook, and instead just eats some shitty mushrooms and trips out. Like, what the fuck? This stupid idiot didn't even check for like,
I mean,
the
he
item
needs to
description.
discover the ingredients first and what
Yeah.
they do, so he just went
Yeah.
by taste first, and
Plus-
then he can cook them. He
plus
doesn't
he-
know the recipe yet.
He fucked up the entire side quest with the hot chick, where you're supposed to bang her and get your portrait done, and instead he just jizzed in his own hand like he was fucking Shinji Ikari.
I mean,
like
look,
that was so embarrassing, and then he didn't even get the cool reward you get at the end. Like, he could have got the fucking super sword that
I
you
can
get at the end
understand
of the
that
quest.
because
yeah.
there was a very hot man that was also after him.
Oh,
Sexually.
yeah. He got distracted. He got mixed messages. From,
Because we all know all Genshin players are extremely fucking gay. I can't give the straight face
he
anymore.
fucking he didn't even get like he fucking Paimon was following him in the form of a fucking fox, and he fucking unequipped even that and fucking sent Paimon to fuck off so he could go on his own to the boss fight. Like, what the fuck?
Look, even Paimon could load in. That's how shitty his fucking rig is.
His graphics card was so fucking shit, he couldn't even render, like, more than, like, one character per scene. Like, he only has, like, one other NPC. Like, where the fuck was all the background characters and all the...
I mean,
there wasn't even any fucking...
actually playing on the phone.
There wasn't any particle effects, like, or ray tracing or anything. It fucking sucks.
Who plays Green Knight on their phone?
He did manage to do the side quest with like the ghost bitch and get her skull though. That was pretty good, and he got the fucking X reward. He you know, but that's like one of the first quests you find in the game. That's like a tutorial quest, and even then he was like fucking like, oh, I'm almost gonna drown and shit. Like, what a fucking piece of shit.
The good thing that there is a webcam on right now is that I can see the light of life die in Green's eyes.
I'm just saying, if he got the fucking coin before, he gets 6 lives. Like, you know, and he goes down, and you can get from the clamshells, they release little bubbles of air, and you can get more time underwater until the fucking eel clamps you. And then you go, oomph! I'm just saying.
I'm waiting for the chance to say, are you done? But
he didn't even jump through his own portrait to the secret level. Like he didn't even long jump into the secret level that was behind him the whole time. And he got fucking killed by the fucking scripted event where you have to QTE the fucking invaders that knock your door down. The fucking idiot, he had to repeat the whole cutscene.
Oh my god. So then 2B knocks down the door.
2B.
And we get very existential. Because androids are also people.
Yeah, when fucking...
But people are not androids.
Yeah.
Unless you go to the moon, wherein people reside on their own.
Hey, don't spoil fucking Nier, goddammit.
And he found all those fucking titans, and he didn't even have his 3D maneuver gear equipped, so he just fucking stood there like a fucking dolt. Like he should have been chopping spines left and right, and he could have got all the sick loot, but no.
No, they get to the wall, and what do we get on the wall?
He thought it was a fucking walking simulator when it was
only
a fucking...
the frost giants, and they come, and what do the frost giants do? Nothing! They just stand there for 2 episodes straight.
Just because he was debuffed from the mushrooms, he's like, I'm just gonna let these fuckers go past me. Ugh. Embarrassing. Yeah.
Embarrassing.
Okay, you
That's
can talk
your
now.
opening.
I'm done.
I just want to stress that was
and he went to fucking 0 bonfires in his run. 0
Not one bonfire.
Does he realize that when the Green Knight kills him, he had to respawn back at the fucking castle?
Yeah. Fucking got killed by the first Elden Lord. Yes, I can't anymore.
Okay, I just muted
I've lost
Michi
track
real
of
quick.
games.
Fuck you, bitch! I'm back.
What the fuck?
I'm back.
Why can you unmute yourself?
Because I'm fucking level 53 in this fucking game. I'm the fucking...
Why is that an option?
I'm the Elden
Why
Lord,
is that
and you're a
unmute
fucking
yourself
shitty
option?
NPC, Green.
Okay,
I'm coming back every time you think you can just defeat me. I respawn at the...
I turned it off. I turned off unmute yourself, which I don't know why that was an option. So, Thupa, today we are talking about the Green Knight. Primarily. What? We're talking about the Green Knight, and secondarily, as a part of that, we're also talking about The Seventh Seal, which is a movie that I think has a lot of care. Are you okay, Thupa?
Obviously not. Oh my fucking god.
We are joined today by Thupa, who is choking to death on camera and rubbing his eyes to the point that I'm almost concerned. There is a dog. And Michi, fuck you. I'm not answering a fucking Discord call. I'm bringing you right back. I'm bringing you right fucking back, and we're also joined by Michi, who will start participating in the conversation starting now, and I do mean that.
Oh my god.
You haven't defeated me. No, okay. I'll stop. I swear.
Okay.
Oh my
So-
god. She smells like shit. Literally. Why does your mouth smell like that?
Hello, I'm Michi, and I remembered, so you don't have to.
Can we kick him off the podcast?
No, Asher's actually
Hello?
here. They've just been muted the entire time.
I hope. I would pay them to do that. That would be perfect communicating.
Let me ask you guys a question.
Oh wait, no, I'm in Russia. I can't pay anybody.
Sure, Michi,
Did you?
what is the question?
I watched the Seventh
fucking
Seal
dumb.
as a teenager, like various times. When was the first time you guys watched it?
I watched
Lord.
I watched it for the first time with Thupa, actually, around a year
Really?
ago.
Okay.
Yeah, really.
Well then,
Was it a
fuck you
movie night
guys.
that I did?
You're fucking plebs. Yeah.
I don't know if it was a
Awesome.
movie night or it was just the time I mentioned a movie and you said, "Hey, let's watch it." I think the second. I'm not sure though, because
probably the
I think it
second.
was just me and you.
Yeah, probably the second. I tend to do that.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
should we start with that? I just ruined
I
it.
think you've already started.
What are you talking about?
So we're talking about The Green Knight. We're also talking about The Seventh Seal.
Yeah.
These are two movies that are very similar thematically, or at least they have a lot of carryover, even though they're very different movies in terms of the time they came out, the techniques that went into them. The Seventh Seal came out in the 50s, I believe, mid-50s.
Wrong.
Do you know when?
Yeah, late 50s.
Okay, late 50s. The Seventh Seal came out in the late
Wrong.
50s. Thupa, we need to actually start, or we're not going to get anywhere on this.
The mutiny continues.
It's me and Michi. We are not gonna get anywhere. Period.
Okay, but
The review must go on.
the Seventh Seal came out in the 50s.
Do you have to
Very old-fashioned. What?
He keeps quoting Nostalgia Critic at me, and it disturbs me.
Okay.
I'm so glad you
Okay,
know what I'm
I'm-
talking about because I'm just doing circles around green.
Okay.
The review.
The Seventh Seal came out in the 50s. It is a very traditional classic Hollywood movie. It's in black and white, practical sets that are usually pretty fun, kind of shoddy in areas.
Yeah.
Unlike The Green Knight, which is a totally modern movie. And one thing I find interesting about that transition is this: if you watch The Seventh Seal, you can tell it was written by people who had a background in theater. And if you look into Bergman's history, he was a playwright. That was part of what he did.
Yeah, it's
lot of this-
it's an adaptation of a play, isn't it?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a ver-
actually based on a play that he wrote earlier, of course.
Yeah. It's an early-ish movie that is very reliant on previous cultural forms, and you can see a lot of carryover in the way things are staged. The performances are very, you could say, theatrical. Often
Yeah.
people are just positioned in a way where you kind of feel like they're used to having an audience at 90 degrees to them. Where The Green Knight is a contemporary movie, and one thing about The Green Knight, I think it's really interesting that with the visuals, The Green Knight is almost a post-CGI movie, where it's one of those movies that are starting to come out that they kind of show the golden age of practical effects is behind us. We went through a period of CGI where CGI sucked, slowly got better. As it got better, it was horribly overused. And now we're in the new world. And The Green Knight is one of those movies that inaugurate us there, where we're in the point where they do use CGI, but they do tend to be selective about it. And one thing that makes The Green Knight so interesting is you see how much they rely on composition and design, where they do use CGI to touch things up and do some effects, but they don't abuse it, and it feels like it's just another tool in the toolkit now, where no one
Also,
cares,
they
so we're
use
moving on.
CGI to attract furries.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
they
true.
use CGI
He's
to
right,
attract
they do.
furries.
I'm really glad you mentioned that, Green, because that's exactly what I was thinking the whole time I was watching it. I was like, the movie looks incredible, obviously. So I was like, I know it's CGI, but I was like, I couldn't tell where the cutoff line. Like, let's say they're like in this like foresty area, I'm not sure like which trees are like real, and then where it cuts off into like the CGI background, And it really reminded me of like I was watching like lots of David Fincher movies recently, and like Zodiac, for example. That's a movie that like while watching it, I had no idea that there was like any CGI in it, because it just looks like it's just like a normal like setting, just like city day to day. But that's exactly like what you're talking about, like this like subtle selective use of CGI to like enhance stuff. And as George Lucas would say, the special effects are just a tool, to be just used, and on their own they're pretty boring. Like in Zodiac, there's like lots of stuff where like it just looks like a normal street, but actually it's like part of a set, and then they've used a green screen to enhance that, or certain little effects, or like when the people get killed by the Zodiac killer, like the blood splatter will be like CGI and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, CGI has gotten to the point where it seems for like a lot of movies, for at least the smarter movies, the goal is for the audience to not think about or notice it.
Exactly, like editing and stuff like that. It should be
where you can tell they're touching things up. You can tell that a lot of the shots would be very, very difficult to replicate with
exactly
traditional camera and traditional methods.
Yeah,
but they don't go over the top. Most of the time, you don't think about it, and like people like me and you, we do think about it in terms of we notice that we're not thinking about it. So that's cool.
Exactly.
So on a technical and production side, I think these movies go well together because they are very representative of the eras that they were made in.
Yeah.
Where both of these movies were very cutting edge for their time, where The Seventh Seal was aped and parodied and seen as exemplary over and over again.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Oh, sorry, were you waiting for me to cut in?
No, Thupa, I don't know what Thupa wants.
Did you mute him, or did he mute himself?
I think... Oh, he
Does
muted
he not
himself?
know he's muted? Yeah.
Oh, he can't unmute himself. He can mute himself, but not unmute himself.
He's the reverse of me.
Oh, yeah. Fuck. Hold on, Thupa. Thupa, you can now unmute yourself.
I have the mod privilege!
See? You fucking trying to fucking silence me has backfired in your fucking face, Green.
Well, so did inviting you.
Oh, she takes as much as she gives.
Let me finish. On the production side, we have two films that are very representative of the times in which they were made, and we're on the cutting edge of each period. Then, thematically, they're both about death, and facing death, and learning to be okay with that, I guess. Yep. In different ways, but there is that through line going through both of them. Mm-hmm. To the extent that I almost see The Green Knight as a spiritual sequel to The Seventh Seal, and I don't know if he said it, I would not be surprised at all to learn the director was doing that consciously.
I honestly don't know if I quite agree with that statement. I think thematically the two movies are quite similar. Because both of them are in a large part about the journey and the ending of it. Both characters have very limited amount of time left to them. Yes, one has like a year and the other one like a couple of days, essentially. But it is still like, considering like a breadth of time that both have lived, it's a very limited stretch of time and very finite, or it seems to both characters. And throughout this finite amount of time, they have to come to terms with their own mortality, with their search for meaning in life to some extent, and how they deal with it.
To a large extent, I agree with that. I think where the difference is that it's important in a few places. One, in The Seventh Seal, and I should probably clarify real quick, the core concept of The Seventh Seal is a knight and his squire come back from the Crusades, they go back to Sweden, they arrive during the Black Death, There is widespread despair and destruction and social collapse everywhere around them. They see death constantly. And the main character...
Black Plague.
Yeah, the main character, Black Plagues matter, am I right?
They're both knight errants, as they're called. Yeah.
Yes. Right after they arrive on the beach, the knight encounters Death, who is personified by a man in a black cloak. Death implies that he is coming for them, and the knight and Death decide to play a little game. It isn't implied that the knight gets to live forever if he wins or anything like that, but they play a game of chess, and they just chat with each other throughout the movie, taking little breaks from their game as they keep progressing towards the knight's home, and that is the core concept. I think that the big difference between the Seventh Seal and the Green Knight in terms of the death thing is in the Seventh Seal, they do know they're going to die. It is certain that they are going to die, but they don't know when it's going to happen. There always is the chance they're going to survive the plague and die 50 years later. They really don't know. They try to accept death, but they never see death as something to move forward. They're always trying to avoid and evade death while also making peace with it. In the Green Knight, he knows exactly when he's going to die. And there's like a little tiny hope of maybe he won't actually die, but he knows when he's going to die, and he is going there on purpose when he is almost totally certain he could live to a ripe old age if he did not do that. He could be in Seventh Seal world, trying to live, trying to extend his life, but making peace with mortality. But instead, because of a higher calling and a sense that his death is supposed to be meaningful, he's walking towards something that almost certainly will kill him. And I think that's kind of the difference.
Yeah, definitely. And something you've mentioned and something I definitely want to talk about is death has much more of a presence in the Seventh Seal, and boy, is he a fucker.
He's everywhere. Like in Seventh Seal, like Death is chasing them around. In Green Knight, he's the one actively looking for the death, for lack of a better word.
Definitely. By boy, is he a fucker. Death is such a...
He's an asshole for sure.
He's portrayed in almost comedic way because... but never malicious. Malicious. Because death is everywhere in Seventh Seal. Yeah. As you've mentioned before, the big part about the Seventh Seal is that it's a knight that comes from a crusade where a lot of people died, and they're found on the beach, basically lying down, and death approaches Block, I believe his name is.
That's the knight.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but yeah,
it's Block. It's Block.
And then the squire is
Antonius
Johns.
Block.
Antonius Block.
Awesome name.
Approaches him right there and then to basically take him away. But he isn't dead yet, because as we find out throughout the movie, as death dissipates and goes after other people, death actually literally kills people in this movie.
Yeah, he does. He kills that guy on the tree, yeah.
He literally goes to kill people, but he does it in such just silly ways sometimes. Like, yeah, the guy killing... Guy climbs up a tree, death comes there, and just cuts down the tree with a saw.
That one is like poetic or faded irony or something, because that guy like pretends that he's hung himself. So it's like, don't play around with death. Now I'm going to fucking kill you on the same tree.
Oh, but playing chess with death is fine?
Well, that's just a metaphor for like extending. Like you're gonna lose at some point anyway because no one wins against death. But the better you play, the longer you live, right?
Yeah. But the reason that makes sense is because death is a force of nature.
Yeah, exactly.
It comes randomly. You can never predict it.
And so is the Green Knight. He's a force of nature too.
And nobody can see death in that movie as well, except one character. So. That tree going down was actually probably just something that happened in the world.
Yeah,
so
you could,
under his weight. So,
or you don't know. Maybe the guy hung himself accidentally. Maybe the guy ended up hanging himself by accident. That was like a occurrence at Owl Creek where the guy is hung, but then during the last few seconds before his neck snaps, he imagines himself escaping this whole story, but then he actually just got it. He was just hanged. It could be something like that, where like
he was very.
It's like if a tree falls in the forest, no one's around, right? If that guy pretended that he hung himself and then death killed him, to everyone else that just looks like he died from the way like they thought he had died anyway. You know?
Well, death killed him either way.
Exactly.
It was funny watching that scene with Thupa because he has an old-fashioned saw slung over his back as he goes up to the guy. Thupa thought it was a baseball bat, I think.
he was gonna fully coolie him. He was gonna fucking hit him in the middle of the forehead and open the portal.
I was like, is he going to fucking cluck his ass?
He's gonna chop it down with a baseball. With a baseball bat. That's how powerful he is.
I just thought he was going to go over here and just fucking club him over the fucking head.
That would be great.
Like, what the fuck?
One of the best parts of The Seventh Seal is I do love how much personality they gave Death in that movie, where he is a concept. He does embody the concept of death very well in how he comports himself. But he also has a lot of sass. He has a lot of humor. He's a trickster. He's a manipulative jerk sometimes. It captures death is not evil. It's not malicious. But he is kind of a shady character. And in a way where
I'd say it's like Sandman logic, where like, you know, these characters who are like abstract concepts, they're treated like Greek gods, where they're like, yeah, I embody this thing, but I'm also a character all of my own. Like Death in Sandman is like this like jolly fucking jokester character.
I was waiting for you to bring up Sandman. Sorry, Thupa. I was waiting for you to bring up Sandman, and I have to say, Death in Sandman is probably the best depiction of death as a personification, where she's just such an utterly lovable person.
Yeah, that's why she gets like her own spin-off comic, right?
Yeah, where in Sandman, Death is a beautiful woman who is very sweet, very very open about the fact that she's leading people into the unknown. One of the sweetest scenes in Sandman is when Emperor Norton, the historical figure who was insane and thought he was Emperor of America, is when he dies and Death shows up and takes him hand in hand over the shoulder and walks with him saying, "Yep, no one ever knows what happens next. Let's go find out together, Norton." And they're all just walking together. That was cute. I do love Death's personality, but I love that Death is a person because his personality quirks, you wouldn't have to make Death this way. There was leeway in what they did to depict him, but the fact that he's kind of a guy all his own, it makes it easier to relate to him and accept the actual idea part. I'm sorry, Thupa. Please continue.
I need to bring back something because he's gonna fucking murder me. What the fuck were you talking about, Ant-Man again?
Ant-Man?
I think he's just fool. You know what Sandman is, right?
Oh my Jesus!
By Neil Gaiman?
By Neil Gaiman.
Christ, I heard Ant-Man the first time around, and then I was just so confused.
Death is a great character in Ant-Man. Like, all the ants have to like come to terms with their fucking mortality because they're gonna get squished.
I was so confused.
Well, in the original comics, Thanos loves Death, who is a literal character.
Yeah, he's actually in love with Death. Yeah, that's why he does the thing.
Oh my god, this just lifted us.
He's just simping. He's just hardcore simping for Death. Like, that's the impetus for the fucking Infinity Wars.
Which, in a way, if you can get there mentally, that's probably the best way to live.
The thing is, after Sandman came out, everyone was simping for Death. Because they saw the character design. I was gonna say the scene that you're saying he's a trickster. Like, that's the scene that's like stuck with me. One of the ones that stuck me with the most, like, for all these years since I watched Seventh Seal for the first time, was like the scene where he's like talking in church with like the would be
what a beautiful scene.
Yeah, and he's like talking about what he's gonna do and shit, and he's got like the fucking. I haven't watched the film in like 10 years, but I'm just imagining like the fucking shadows of like the bars on his face and stuff, and he's saying like what he's gonna do next and shit, and then it's revealed that it's Death, and like your first instinct's like, oh, you piece of shit, like is nothing sacred, you know, like he's like, it seems like almost like the devil tricking you, like in the thing that you have the most faith, but then after a bit you think, you're like, wait, Death isn't like a malicious concept. You know, death isn't like a bad thing as you think of like when you're a kid. Like it's not like it's not like evil alignment in fucking D&D. Death, the angel of death and all that stuff, death is like equal parts on either side. Like death is just a much part of like God, the idea of faith and God and all that stuff. I mean, that's why that guy in my actual favorite scene is painting the church with the fucking dance macabre and shit. It's like coming to terms with it is part of his faith, like his confession and stuff. So it's really poignant, yeah.
That scene is really good, and the few things that I want to point out in it are that I don't think death quite tricked the man, because there is something, there's this small part of the character that I think some people overlook, and it's that death is much more of a character. It has a thing that it wants to kind of uncover, and that thing is, why is Block playing chess with it? And it's kind of confronts him a lot about it throughout this encounter. Because initially, they sit down and they're like, why would you want to play chess with Death? And he's like, I've got my reasons. Yep. And Death goes, alright, let's do this shit. And then in the scene, they kind of, as he piously confesses all of these.
So did you think, just when he came up with the baseball bat, did you think, like, for each person he plays a different game, so he was going to challenge him to a game of baseball? He was going to like, you take second base.
The squire reaches into his cloak and pulls out a fiddle.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, why do you want to play chess with me? I'm all out of golf balls.
And if you win a challenge against me in the fiddling contest,
we are gonna do some hardcore curling, motherfucker. Yeah.
If you lose, you'll get a smaller silver fiddle, but you also die.
The guy in the tree, he gives him a golden noose.
Goose.
Hey, what do you know?
Hey.
Yeah, my jokes are horrible.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt your good point. I just couldn't get the visual out of my mind of like Death running with a fucking baseball cap, trying
I want to put it behind this, Death.
Yeah, well, Death.
This one,
in the Seventh Seal, Death is a goofball. He's a silly guy.
He is. He's a silly, fucking, goofy-looking bald boy.
One thing I love about Death is how matter-of-fact he is, and this is actually something both the Green Knight, the character in the movie, the guy who is going to cut off Gowan's head, both him and Death, they're very similar in a lot of ways. You can almost see the Green Knight as a different conception of death and what it means.
They are both fuckers.
Yeah. I think they have nothing to fear. Like, what is this fucking dumb knight gonna do to them, you know? There's no way he can win. There's nothing he can do to harm them. Like, literally shown in Green Knight that this motherfucker is just, like, impervious anyway. So, yeah, they're just like, I'm just gonna have a fucking fun time with it. Like, I'm just toying around with this kid.
I want to really quickly bring back something I haven't quite had the time to say. In that scene, something I really want to also point out is that I think Death is very opportunistic in the Seventh Seal. And it's because it didn't go there to trick the man. But once presented with the opportunity, it took it.
He understands perfect comedic timing. He knows exactly where to pop in
that
like a punchline drum roll, you know?
That plays into what I'm saying, where I like their personalities, where both the Green Knight and Death, they're both very polite in many ways, and they're both very matter-of-fact about it. Where they're not sadistic, they're not gleeful. They do have some fun with it, but a large portion of how they view their job is, it just is what it is. When Death goes up to Block, there's nothing personal about it. It's just, Block, this is just how things work. I move you from here to there. I'm kind of like the bus driver. I can play some music while we're driving. We can play some games. I can point out the sights on the tour. But it's just what it is. Yeah. You know, there's nothing personal. And one thing that I like, there were two lines that I think really sync up with each other well. In the Seventh Seal, when Block is on one of his emotional existential rampages, he's yelling at Death, trying to get him to explain what happens after, and Death looks at him and says, I am unknowing, which you can interpret as Death is a state of unknowingness itself, or Death just doesn't know. I think Thupa said when we watched it, that you think Death is just literally saying, I don't know what happens after me. I just do it.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in the...
Yeah, sorry. No, continue. Yeah.
And at the climax of the Green Knight, when Gawain is finally in the chapel, standing before the Green Knight, who is, again, going to cut off his head, he looks up after he finally settles in the position, and he goes, "Is this it?" And the Green Knight just shrugs and says, "What else ought there be?"
Yeah, that was great.
And I think those...
I love that matter-of-factness is perfect for exemplifying something like above humans, because humans spend all their time like wondering about stuff and conflicted and shit. Any force that should be like that much more powerful should be like certain about stuff. They don't have room for question.
And it's a moment of similarity between the characters. It really establishes them, as force. Yeah, it establishes them as forces of nature. And both of them are looking at the human, basically saying, this web of meaning and narrative and purpose and high-minded ideals, that's just you spinning yarns around this. And maybe there's something there, but that's not my job. I just am the thing that you're trying to come to terms with. Your ideas are your ideas. I have nothing to do with them.
Yeah. The scene, I might be a bit like slightly tainted because like before I watched the movie, you already told me like we were doing the podcast on both movies, So
yep.
Initially I was already like, I hadn't thought of it before because I hadn't seen The Green Knight, but like when you said it, I was like, oh yeah, that they seem similar. I mean, aside from just being like, medieval fantasy movies. And being very cinematic and pretty. I was like, oh yeah. So of course when I was watching it, like that was behind my mind. But the scene that really like the first scene that like made me think that they were really similar and could have been a scene in Seventh Seal was when he comes across that like battlefield with the robber kid. The whole conversation there like could have been from Seventh Seal easily. And the appearance of everything, like, yeah.
That's that one scene. That's the point where it could almost be seen as an homage to the Seventh Seal, because you're right. It does look and feel exactly like it.
And it's a bit like a mission statement for the movie. Like the whole, I don't know. There's so many like points to it. Like the whole thing of like, obviously you get like, there's no like more immediate way of showing like pointlessness of things and how death is just like this fucking ever-present thing than having like just a battlefield and scavengers on it. It's just like, oh, this is, these guys come out here to fight for glory and honor and protecting stuff, and now they're just like fucking nothing. They're just reduced to their implements, to whatever you can pick off them, to their fucking gold teeth and their rings. And I don't know, like, of course, like all the wardrobes and stuff, there's like so much to notice in this movie. I'm sure I didn't get everything on a first viewing, but like just a tiny thing. If you look at like the robber, when they zoom in on him, like the necklace, like around his neck, he just has like a bunch of rings, and you just know that like he's been fucking, taking these off of everyone's fucking fingers and shit. And then he has like a little moment where he's like, he seems like emotional because he says like he has brothers that are here on the battlefield, and he seems like he's like cracking up and gonna cry. But then like, knowing what you know after that, it's like, is any of that fucking shit true? Like, is this kid actually affected by this, or is he so like numb to this that he's just, picking out this fucking mark? It's hard to tell. He's an interesting character. Aside, he's not just like a robber. Like the way he acts, and then he pretends that he's gonna go on the quest and shit. It's like, yeah, they did a lot with that little character.
Well, I don't even know if that character is intended to be human, to be completely honest.
I mean, the whole thing could be just like a dream thing,
Well, and yeah, one, he seems to know things he shouldn't know. Two, he, I don't know, very suspicious timing. And if you watch closely when he's talking to Gawain, there's actually a moment where he takes his hand, which has a coin in it, and he opens his hand, and the coin has moved to the other hand.
Yeah, but he does that when he sees him again.
That's not something humans can do.
Okay, that's it.
He's called a magic trick. I can show you one of those. I was like, exactly the same one.
He takes it, and then he takes it outside of Gawain's behind his ear. So I was like, does Gawain have a coin? Does he store coins like behind his ear? Is that like a thing that old knights used to do, to keep coins behind their ear? I guess you just knew that. I mean,
you see, Grid, in one hand I have a rubber band But now, ooh,
That
it's
was
on the
also-
other hand.
But adding to that, like,
But it's green.
but for real, like the main thing. That's like, stop it. The main like, guys, you know I hate like interruptions to the main point and flow of the podcast. Like that's just fucking
really?
disrespectful to Green and to the listener. Like honestly, like that, yeah, makes me sick. No,
See,
okay.
Michi, I guess you need me to show you a trick as well. You see this finger?
No way. No fucking way. No, don't do me like this. Oh, holy shit. You're fucking, oh my god. I guess witchcraft really is real. No, okay. But like a little subplot of like, okay.
Without visuals, it will just sound like I'm flipping you off, but I was trying to make a trick.
Okay.
Don't worry, I've got that
A
one.
subplot with that little like fucking robber twink dude. He's like, okay, I'm just gonna say like what my journey with this was, because I think it might be interesting, a little like a parallel to the main story. It was like, I saw that kid and he takes the axe and the horse and he like leaves the other robbers and everyone's like, what the hell are you doing? And it seems almost like he's like possessed by the axe to like kind of continue this quest, you know what I mean? Like it seems like as soon as to me it seemed like as soon as he like lays eyes on the axe, he's like, I know what I must do, you know. I was like, I wonder if that's what they're going for, you know, when I was watching the movie. But then like you don't hear from it, so I'm sort of just like, oh, I guess he was just like taunting him. Like he was like, you're no knight, you know. I'm gonna take. I'm more. I think he said something like the axe, like it seemed to call to him, like he thought he seemed like it seemed to fit him better. And he could have just been another version of like the Green Knight himself in disguise, because like that's what the Lord at the castle is. He's just the Green Knight.
Yeah, well, that is one aspect of the movie that permeates the whole thing. Is very few people have read the original, but
I have,
in the original. Okay, you're only one person,
And so have
but
Okay, we're only two people,
Really?
and we're only ganging up on
Okay.
you, Green.
yeah, I
It
guess I
turns
just
out
failed.
actually 90% of people have heard it. It's like a common thing, you know. Like you've watched The Simpsons, you've read The Green Knight, the 14th century poem by
You've
Anonymous.
watched The Family Guy.
Yeah,
you've
you watch
read a little
Family
bit
Guy.
of a Bible.
Yeah, you watch Nostalgia Critic, and you get home and you read your Green Knight. Yeah.
Who doesn't know about the concept of Dharma in Buddhism? From the original source.
Yeah. It's staring right at me from my kid's bookshelf, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I mean, ironically, when I was a kid, I did read a
You
children's
mean
book.
moronically.
When I was a kid, I did read a children's book adaptation of The Green Knight,
Really?
which was very inaccurate, but I knew the basic concept as a young child. Then later I
Okay.
learned there's an actual original poem. Never read it, but I was going to say, the fact that there is a legendary original version out there, it is going to color how you interpret this, or people do who look it up. And the original is basically framed as the whole ordeal is a staged theatrical test just to test Gowan's, just to help him grow up and achieve stature as the great knight that he is. So you can interpret that as the whole thing, especially since his mother is involved in the spell to summon the Green Knight.
She is.
You can view the whole thing as it's a staged task, or
That is the intent in the original. Like,
yeah.
I mean, actually, not quite. I think the movie has I think it fused the two characters. This has been like an ongoing like discussion in like history for a long time of like, you know, because Arthurian legend has lots of characters and some of them seem to be other characters with different names. And Gawain's mother is Morgause, who is King Arthur's half sister, who she tricks him into having sex with her. So he's like a bastard incest child.
Accidentally. Yes.
No, sorry, he isn't. Sorry, Gawain isn't. Mordred, Arthur's bastard son who kills him, is the product of this incest. But they have the same mother, who is Morgause. And then there's Morgan Le Fay, who is the other sister of Arthur, who is the more associated with sorceries and witchcraft, and the one who turns that guy into the Green Knight. But in the movie, I think they've kind of fused the two together, because oftentimes Morgause is also like considered like a witchcraft woman. So I think, yeah, it's for convenience sake, it's like turned his mother into the sorceress character, which is a good idea, I think, than having this side character who's like, it was me actually all along who did this, you know?
I do wish
Thupa is muted again, by the way.
Okay,
I did, because the kid burned toast and I thought the house was on fire.
Okay.
This kid, I tell ya.
This fucking kid.
children and toast.
Reading Buddha and The Green Knight and watching Family Guy.
Yeah.
I don't see the difference.
Okay.
Remember the time I had to go kill the Green Knight?
No.
Something I wanted to ask you is, you briefly mentioned that Green Knight seemed somewhat theatrical to you, in that...
I thought he said Seventh Seal seemed theatrical.
I said that the Seventh Seal is theatrical in the sense that you can tell the people who made it started in theater, and it's affecting their decisions. When I said that about the Green Knight, I meant that Gawain's actual literal quest is staged by the other characters, where you can interpret what's happening as friendly forces are inventing hurdles for him to jump over. I'm not saying necessarily that's true. That is an interpretation. It would explain a lot.
Okay, I can kind of see it, because Seventh Seal is literally very theatrical. Like, there is a theatrical troupe within the show that are prevalent characters.
Yes, it is all. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like most of the props from the movie were just taken from like a stage play.
I can see that.
Yeah, you don't have to make your own. Like, just use these costumes, whatever. I mean, it's like fucking Orson Welles' Macbeth, right? Like, or I even watched, like, I recently watched Henry V, the Laurence Olivier movie. Like, all these are just like just film the theater piece. It's already really good.
I am a river to my people. God, that's such a good quote.
It is.
One quick detail about that was cool. In the Green Knight, in the late flashback, in the bad future scene, where you see a future version of Gawain as the king, when there's a close-up and he has the coif on his head.
Macbeth's Throne of Blood kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I was just going to say, if you look at it, his mail that the coif is made out of, it is riveted mail, which is a period-accurate piece, or that's what high-quality mail actually used to be, but it's very difficult to make, so it is very rarely used in films. That was just a very cool thing to notice. They went through the trouble to actually make riveted mail.
Yeah, it even had the actual like bits where like hooks like clip into themselves. You know what I'm talking about? Like certain
rivets?
bits of. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. I wasn't sure if that. I wasn't sure if riveted just meant like that the loops are just looped like on their own, or okay.
Are the loops fruity?
Yeah.
That means he actually had a big weight on his head, because those things weigh like quite a bit on your neck.
They do. They do. I could show you.
I've put one on at a castle.
Well, just the history of how chainmail, and purists will tell you it's just called mail, don't call it chainmail.
Yes.
But the history of how chainmail is depicted in historical productions is an interesting topic in itself.
Yeah. It's normally just like wool and shit like that.
Well, that's what Monty Python did. They bought wool sweaters at a gift shop.
Which is the superior Arthurian adaptation.
And they sprayed it with metallic spray paint, and that's how they did it.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, they actually did make the mail for the orcs and the mass characters, but they found people who knew how to make chainmail, and they had them train just a bunch of grunts, and they cut up PVC pipes, and they made PVC rings, and they mass-produced these and then spray-painted them. And some characters, like Aragorn and stuff, they actually found artisans, because there's a lot of people who do this as a hobby. I used to do it. They found artisans to make the high-quality mail for the close-ups of the characters.
Yeah,
but they did make thousands of cheap ones and just spray-painted them.
Yeah. They're like Lord of the Rings. That's the famous thing. Like, there's like the swords as well. There's like loads of like real swords, but like most of them are like fiberglass and shit like that. Yeah. I was going to say, pertinent to this, like you saying that historical accuracy thing, that actually was interesting to me in the film, because I was like, okay, Arthurian stuff, like supposedly is supposed to take place in like from like 700s to like 900s, around that time. It's like Saxon stuff, like before. I mean, technically it's all French, but you know, before Norman conquest.
Yeah.
And I was like, when this was interesting to me, because like as soon as he stepped foot in that lord's castle with his wife and the old lady, I was like, this place is like unbelievably like exuberant and luscious, you know? And I was like, okay, let's compare this to like the King Arthur's castle that we see in the same time period. And I was like, okay, it's King Arthur's castle, like a shitty medieval cold stone brick of a place with fucking tapestries and carpets and stuff. And this guy is like in a carved wooden mansion of an interior with like intricate stonework, and like the ceilings were all, and I was like, this isn't the same time period. And I was like, that's immediately how I knew that this place was like a fucking vision or stuff. Not that it's that hard to tell. I'm just saying, like, that's a nice touch. That just by looking at it, you're like, this is like almost Renaissance era, like just before Renaissance, like peak Gothic stuff, like the all the architecture, and like, and then you go into the room and she's got like hundreds of books, and I'm like, yeah, you couldn't find fucking like 5 books in King Arthur's castle. Like, you'd have to be so incredibly rich, and these are like actually like they have actual like book covers and stuff, you know, like they're bound. And I was like, this is like future tech relatively, you know, this is like heavenly for this guy. And I was like, yeah, this is like a fucking vision place, because this place could not exist. And I was like, yeah, that was nice just being able to tell that just from the historical accuracy, or I guess inaccuracy technically. It was nice to be able to tell that it was like a fucking fantasy place.
That was very cool. And some people have said all the anachronisms make sense. When it gets to the point where she actually takes a photograph, that's when you know that all reality has been broken.
No, of course.
Some people have pointed out that at one point, the Lord of the Manor, I'm not even sure if it's in this version, says that on the way back, you won't be able to see the house. And some people have said that's a rule of fairies, that when you actually leave their abode, when you go back, it disappears. So
it did seem like something mystical to me. Like when he said that, I was like, yeah, what a coincidence. Obviously, this is like, it doesn't exist anymore.
So that could be an implication that the people are literally supernatural and not even anything's there. Thupa, go.
Something you briefly touched on before you went on this whole historical shebang is the idea of the ending of the Green Knight. And are you ready to tackle that? Because there are some interpretations there.
Well, I think we'll get to there a bit later. Let's give it a few. One about the.
You can't rush to your own death, Thupa. Okay, you can't just rush to the end. That's what we've learned.
But I want to. I've even tried.
Yep. One thing about the Seventh Seal.
Should make a movie.
You should. The Thup Knight.
The Thup Knight.
Thup Knight.
He shows up behind people with a baseball bat and thoops them.
He lacks for front teeth. That's why he makes the Thup.
Boo. Is that why you make the Thup?
I just wanted to say, speaking of like silly knights, the only silly thing at the beginning of the movie to me was just that, like,
he just likes to serve soup to people.
He's a super.
But he doesn't have the front teeth, so it comes out with soup.
The only
everybody
thing
thinks
that
it's his name.
That I thought that, like, I guess maybe it might have been just because I was right at the start, so I wasn't like in that mystical mood of the movie yet. But like, the mom clearly read out that like they could just nick him anywhere, and he would return
that is
the
actually
favor. And Gawain immediately is like, I'm going to inflict a mortal wound immediately. Like, he could just nick this finger, and then he would have got a finger off. But you know,
I want to make
this
fantasy.
Point. It's mythological.
You know what? We'll get back to my thing. Yeah, let's go for it a bit. We're gonna get back. We're gonna fucking hit up this point at some point. I want to say it. Okay, so moving into the Green Knight.
Say he was just so chomping at the bit to prove himself a fucking worthy guy that he just goes for massacre.
I think everything in that room was staged as fuck.
Okay.
Well, yeah, he did present his neck, so he kind of goaded him into it, I guess.
Okay, yes. Moving into the Green Knight a little more. Just to reiterate, I'm sure everyone knows, but the Green Knight begins with Gawain, who is the nephew of King Arthur. Doesn't know a lot about Arthur. They're kind of estranged. Mm-hmm. He hangs out with his prostitute girlfriend in the brothel. He talks to his mom, who's a sorcerer, but he doesn't seem to know that.
Yeah.
He goes to eat Christmas dinner with King Arthur in his court. King Arthur invites him to his side. They have a little chat about how he has no stories to tell of himself quite yet. They try the bond. The Green Knight, who is a big wooden guy with an axe, comes in and challenges them all. In the original version, the Green Knight is much ruder, I believe, where he basically calls them a bunch of pussy bitches and basically says, none of you
and
have
your mom smells of elderberries.
He is. Exactly. This is a much more like forlorn gray version of everything, where like the knight is very courteous, and all the other knights are like, they're old and they're like past their prime and they're like fucking, oh, this decaying world, and they're like, none of them want to take it up. Whereas like in the original, like lots of knights, I think they're like all kind of wanting to, but then King Arthur's like, I'll do it, but then Gawain is like, I'll do it over you because I'm such a fucking, I'm the youngest, I'm the more hot-headed of all of them. But they're all like still presented as like brave knights. It's a brave court. It's not like old men court.
Yeah, in the original, go.
In this version, like, the thing I want to briefly touch on is that I think everybody just wanted to set up the kid just from the start. And it's
Several
something that
people did.
I don't think they all did. I don't think it's in the best interest of all these knights. I think the idea is it's like chivalry's kind of dead and these guys are all like, oh, the fucking, it's been a long time since any of these guys have done anything awesome, and now they just sit around and tell tales of how cool shit they used to do. Yeah.
It's very much bound to my interpretation of the ending of the story because it goes very similar in some beats to the beginning of the show or the movie, I should say, where
it's like poetry. They rhyme.
Oh. Much like in the Seventh Seal, they start on the
much
beach
like in
and
Star
end on
Wars
the beach
Episode
as well.
3, Return of the Sith, Revenge of the Sith.
Is that the one with the Ewoks? No, it's not. You know why?
It's a lot
because
like
Ewoks are cool.
You know, it's a lot like this podcast. It began with Michi being muted as I yelled at him, and it'll end the same goddamn way.
Hey, only time will tell.
Well, it will be me who's going to have to be muted.
Let's just say it will end in a memorable way.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
But the
Are
beginning
you going to whip your dick out?
Okay.
If I did, we're not on camera, so.
But in the original tale, the Green Knight is very boisterous, and he's specifically challenging everyone's courage. He says He says the knights of this hall have no honor if they will not play this game with me. Someone will hit me, and I will return the blow a year from now. None of you want to do it. In the original tale, this is a big difference between the old version and this one. Funny I'm saying this when I'm the only one who hasn't read it. But the original Gawain was actually supposed to be one of the best knights. I think he's portrayed as the bravest of the bravest of Arthur's knights. Where the original tale is basically about even the greatest hero will stumble and make mistakes along their way. Even if at the end of the day they are a great dude, but even great people are imperfect in their greatness. Yeah. Where in this version, Gawain just sucks. Gawain,
that's what I kept thinking too.
But
he's
not a knightly person at all. That's the thing. He's not a knight.
He isn't. I mean, he says so.
He's not a knight.
He wants to be. He wishes he could be.
He's knight in name, not in spirit.
He should be knight by heritage. He has noble blood in his veins.
He's in line to become a knight, and that is part of the arc in the movie, where in the original tale, he's already a knight. In this one, he's a knight in training, I believe, and he's basically told, go fulfill your quest with the Green Knight, come back, and you will be a full member of the court. Yeah,
that's like, Arthur's kind of goading him at the start. He's like, tell me one of your epic fucking gameplay stories.
Tell me a story of yourself.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I don't have anything to say because I'm a little, baby boy. And then he's like, okay, go make yourself a story to tell me, and that'll make you a knight. This is your final challenge. When you come back, I'll fulfill my part and make you a knight. And that is what happens in the vision, of course. So yeah, that's clearly at least his wishes, and probably what will happen. I mean,
I think the challenge with the knight, and especially what Arthur says and the Queen's reaction to what's going on, I think it really says a lot to what they're trying to get across with this movie, where Arthur specifically says, because the knight comes in, and it's a lot more explicit in this version. I think in the old version, it was implied Gawain could have been tricky and just gave him a little cut on the cheek, but it's less explicit.
Yeah,
in this one, in the modern adaptation, Gawain takes the sword after the knight has spelled out the rules of the game, where whatever blow is given will be returned later. And Arthur says, remember, it's just a game.
Yeah.
And I think that's Arthur kind of trying to bring Gawain into the world of courtly politics, where he's explaining to Gawain, this is an act on some level.
It's like a tiny test. Yeah, exactly. You don't have to go all out.
We actually do our job, but it's kind of made up. It's a cultural thing. We have
Yeah.
rules, we have norms, we have legends and stories. We have a vision, we have a heroic vision of what we're supposed to be. But it's a game in the sense that there are made up rules. There's a give and take. You're competing with other people within the rules to try to come out on top, but it only works if everyone follows the rules. It only works if everyone follows the rules. It's this mentality of you're playing a part, but you have to be sly and self-aware about the fact that you are playing the part, where Gowan as a child takes everything at face value with no maturity or nuance, and so he jumps in. He doesn't even seem to understand the rules of the game. It honestly seems like he wasn't paying attention when the Green Knight was talking.
Exactly.
And so the Green Knight lifts up his face, gives an opportunity to hit his cheek, and then Gowan ignores him and he's just spurging out with the sword. So the Green Knight kneels and offers his neck, and Gowan goes for it. Gowan didn't seem to really understand what he was doing, and everyone in the room who cares about Gowan winces when he does that, because they realize he just completely misunderstood.
Exactly. I mean, and like Thupa was saying about this being like a setup, like, I mean, it's, I don't know if like I go with the whole everyone, but definitely just the basic would just be like Arthur, the Queen, and Morgause, his mom.
Goads him on.
Yeah, I know he goes him when he says the game, but also like at the beginning, like you're seeing him at a brothel and getting drunk, and his mom is like, where were you? And he says he's been at mass. You know, it's like obviously like it wouldn't be a stretch to be like, you know, his mom knows that he's like not up to no good most of the time, and he isn't really knightly, and she could easily speak with her brother and be like, we need to do something about, you know, my kid. I have some fucking witch sisters, you know. I just think it's funny that she wants him to be at mass, even though she is a demonic witch. Like,
that's actually a great point.
Yeah, and Arthur is also like, they've got fucking crosses all over the table, and they're all like holy and shit, even though his sister is a witch in a tower. But okay, but anyway, yeah,
I think that's kind of the
like
point,
this is a little test that they made for him. And I don't think he was ever in any real danger.
I personally think
maybe.
that
I mean, only from himself.
Well, from himself, certainly.
Know?
He died because of his own decision, so he was certainly in danger of his own decisions.
If you want to jump to the ending, why do you think he died?
Not yet.
Okay.
Because
Thupa, it seemed like you were going to say something. Like, we cut you off earlier. What's in your brain, Thupa?
What's in my brain is that the way he just says, like, this is a game, and how before that there's a scene where the lighter is said mysteriously somewhere that the night arrives.
When he said that, it confirmed my Genshin theory when he said it was a game.
When you die in game, you die in real life.
When he said it was a game, you better save before this. This is an important event. You might want to load.
God damn it, I'm about to go to another Genshin rant. Don't start me. But God damn it.
Sorry.
But yeah, anyway, in the beginning, there's a scene where the letter gets sent, and then the knight arrives, and then how the King Arthur goads the young knight on. It just feels like it was all, like the knight was invited. It's almost implied that way. I mean, like it's a ritual that happens over and over again. Yeah. Like nobody was surprised to see the Green Knight. Even
when the whole round table draw their swords, like behind the knight when he's on his horse, there's like 4 or 6 like sentries posted, like guys with spears, and they're just like stood there. There's like they let guy
let him in.
Waltz in. Yeah, I mean he did, and the door is like not the outer. Like he had to get like through the drawbridge, past the fucking all the gates, up, stroll to the main tower of the castle. They let him through the door, and then they let him past all the guards, and then finally the knights are all just as like a little plaything. They're just like, oh, now we draw our swords, and even
it's almost like a formality.
Yeah.
Okay,
they're just like, oh yeah, it's just a
now
show
we're
of
getting
honor.
Into the shit. Okay, I'm gonna straighten you guys out.
Okay.
This is getting into the...
I'm already straight.
Well, you're not super straight.
I could go either way. You know, who knows? Who knows at the end of this podcast what we'll see. Okay, good to know. Gawain.
I was doing a thing.
But what about your sexual orientality, though?
Okay.
Orientation.
Okay. This is why I'm getting into This is leaning into a couple things. It's leaning into a values thing. It's leaning into a gender thing. Arthur, I think, really represents culture in this movie.
Or civilization, at least.
Kind of. Well, and I mean culture in a way beyond that, where culture are values and roles and traditions and customs that are created by humans and upheld by humans. Where the form they take, it's fed into by real forces, but it's a game. You know, Arthur wears the crown. He can only function as king if people believe he's king. The crown is not some natural scientific phenomenon.
Are you leading this into cryptocurrency?
No. It's a cultural...
His crown is a non-fungible token.
It is a cultural
so
symbol. It is a cultural symbol that adds structure to human interaction and expresses their beliefs and their values and what they're supposed to do. But it's also a game that you participate in. It's a story that you participate in. The whole idea of a knight is a cluster of symbols and roles and manners and rules and ideals of what a man should be that are constructed and turned into stories, and people are held to them as a standard, but it's not a totally natural thing. And this movie is very medieval in one sense. In medieval times, especially later on, there was an idea that culture exists to refine human nature and push them towards higher ends than they would if just left to their own devices. And Arthur really represents that, where Arthur keeps pulling Gawain into a system of values and a vision of what he's supposed to be, which does serve a really important role, but for the individual, it's completely irrational and confusing and makes very little sense. When the Green Knight comes, Arthur is a feudal lord. They live in an honor culture. They live in this system where all the men of power in the area, they constantly play little games with each other to prove how brave and honorable they are. And that's how the world runs. And the thing is, if you participate in an honor culture, you will constantly be expected to perform actions that hurt yourself and are totally irrational from your perspective. But if you don't do it, you're not allowed to participate. And that's the thing about Arthur. He is a massive cultural participator. He's an embodiment of the artificial values and norms that run this civilization. And he's trying to pull Gawain into it. And a bunch of other characters, especially the female characters, are trying to pull Gawain out of it, where they're saying, reject culture, return to nature, survive, fuck, have kids, love your mom, hang out in the woods. Don't be a part of culture, because culture just wants to kill you. What?
No. You're really right. I just thought it was really funny. I just imagined him banging rocks together with his mom in a cave, which he was.
Oh, well, and in medieval times, there was this nature-culture dualism, where they saw men as embodying culture, which is a set of traditions and expectations and stories, and they saw women as embodying nature, where they just have kids and have instincts, and that's what pushes them forward.
Yeah, it's like the emotional world versus logical world stuff.
And also the world of ideas versus the world of matter and experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Where Arthur is an idea and trying to get Gawain to live as an idea, and everyone else is fucking with him. And this becomes explicit when he hangs out with the pervy Duke guy in his castle. They have a fucking... They have literal conversations where they're talking about honor, talking about how futile it is, where the Duke is saying, are you going to be a great hero? Are you going to achieve honor? I'm talking too much. Do you guys understand where I'm going with this?
I do. Yeah, I mean...
Not
do you think
yet,
I'm crazy?
trying to figure that out.
I get it. Like,
I think you're one of those people that lives in the woods and shouts at kids when they appear on his mushroom patch.
He's in the allegory of the cave, but he's not chained to the wall. He just chooses to be in there. Shouting.
That's a fair point. You would kill the mushrooms.
The Green saw that mushroom scene and he was like, fuck, I wish that was fucking me.
No, Jesus. I saw that mushroom scene and I was full of criticisms. I was saying, okay,
you were like,
right off,
Don't pick
That's-
those. Those are clearly
that
milky
looks
caps
nothing.
or whatever.
That looks nothing. Those mushrooms don't resemble any active species I know of. They're almost certainly deadly poisonous.
They kind of look
And
like
you don't
shimeji
just
mushrooms.
see
They're tasty.
maybe, and you don't just see giants when you're on mushrooms. I mean, maybe they're poison, and that's why.
He could see
but
giants.
Maybe he died of mushrooms. Maybe he never got to the Green Knight.
But Thupa. Oh, maybe that's what. I mean, yeah,
Hey.
that is one of many
Speaking
interpretations.
of, yeah, that like I didn't finish my fucking thing with the kid on the field. Okay, when they mug
Was it
him
good?
and don't kill him for no reason. Yeah, obviously they're like a manifestation weird thing. But the first like it cuts to them to the shield with Christ and his mother, and they fucking step on it and break it for no reason. And it's like if these guys were thieves, they would fucking take that, and that thing would be worth its fucking weight in gold or something. And they're just like, nah, fuck your faith, fuck everything that protects you. You're gonna fucking fend for yourself, motherfucker. Yeah, just
And
break it in half.
in medieval Europe, even the thieves would probably be extremely religious.
Yeah.
Another point.
I
Religion
am
is-
shocked how we haven't talked about religion, especially considering Seventh Seal is a part of the
I
movie.
did. I
we're
said
gonna
it was
start
funny how the
right
guy's mom
now.
was a heresy upon God.
I'll move it back in just a moment here. We're going to do this. The one thing that unites both movies, which is very funny and tragic, is both of them have experiences of the supernatural and superhuman forces at play, but the good ones are totally hypothetical and silent, but the bad ones are right in their fucking face.
Good.
And
Very
that is
good
a really
point.
frustrating aspect.
That is a really
where
good point.
in the Green Knight, he has this shield with Christ on it, and he has symbols, which are buttressing and encouraging, I hope,
Yeah.
but they really don't do anything.
No.
While the Green Knight is a physical manifestation of death that walks right up to him with an axe and is going to kill him. His mom
Yeah.
is a sorcerer. There are supernatural shenanigans all over the place. It's just none of them are helpful.
I mean, that's because
just-
like if the good stuff was also physical and like in his face, then it would mean nothing for him to believe
There's
and
a
have faith, right?
very magical fox that follows him.
Yeah. There's fog
And it
gates. He has
says
to go through
fucking
to fight
run.
the bosses.
It just yells at the end, run, fuck off. You cannot fight the Green Knight. Go
Yeah.
tell people you killed him and just never come here again.
Well, yeah, exactly. If he did like all the good stuff, but like that's why he falters in the belt thing, because that's the only thing that's given to him and is good and is literally in his face. Like that's just like the most like. So like him using that, it's like, you know, if he'd believed in him believing in the shield with Christ or his mother's fucking belt, that's still faith, right? But him believing in like a thing that's like kind of a cheat code, that's like, yeah, that's not being courageous. You're just clinging on to this thing that the fucking magic hot lady gave you while she jerked you off.
And even
Alright,
the Christian
you're no
perspective,
I need you to...
real quick, Thupa, and even the Christian perspective would be he's supposed to hold to faith even while God
Yeah,
does
exactly.
nothing for
It's
him.
mysterious.
That's the whole
It's
point.
mysterious ways. Yeah, like that's the
Yeah.
test.
So yeah, Thupa, go.
I need you to dispense your sense of disbelief a little here, because, man, this is quite the concept. You see, what if Christ was wearing his persona as a fox for that movie?
I don't think that was Christ. I think that was just his mom.
Would
Because she's
Christ say, "Be a little bitch, abandon your duties to your king, and just run
Yes.
away"? And
would Christ flee? Would Christ flee from a rock flung at him and then hide in a bag and then be caught in a bag and be like, oh, and then eat a bit of mushroom that was given to him by a knight? I don't know.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Okay.
yeah, because that's what Christ is known for. Christ is known
yeah.
for spiting political
then
authorities
Howling
and
at a
challenging
giant.
their earthly actions.
And
He
eating,
didn't,
and being high
allow.
off his tits.
I mean, Christ did
And
not
Brian
allow.
Stone's thrown at him.
Yeah, but he took him in the face. He didn't go
He- yeah,
scurry
but he
around,
let-
scurry around a bit, and then come
Well,
out the
the
other entrance
suit
of
was
the cave.
expensive.
Well, I thought that was his mom because, like, the blind lady in the castle is his mom, clearly. Just watching him, and then he gets embarrassed that his
Well-
mom saw him get jerked off, which is understandable.
Well, that
What, that
person
is his
actually
mom.
is
Come on.
no. Well, that person is confirmed as like the main bad guy of the story. Like in
Kind
the
of,
actual
yeah, she
poem,
was-
it
yeah, I
explicitly
know, I
says
know.
who it is, but I forget.
But that's
who.
supposed to be Morgan Le Fay in like a
another
guise.
weird one.
That's like her in a guise of old age.
Another weird one. The lady of the castle, the pervy guy's wife, or whoever
She's
it
the
is.
pervy one.
Yeah, well, she's
both
played.
pervy
They're
there.
both pervy.
She's played by the same actress who plays his girlfriend, the prostitute.
noticed
Did you
that.
notice that?
I
didn't
did.
realize they were the same
did.
I
person.
didn't know that.
No, seriously, I saw that now, and I thought for a bit like I was going crazy. But then when I saw the girlfriend again, I was like, that is the same, because that's like a common. That's like a really good way in movies to like show like this idea. Like, okay, I love Dracula 1992 movie by Francis Ford Coppola, and in that, the same actor who plays Van Helsing, in the initial flashback where it's showing, you know, Vlad Tepes, Vlad Dracul, the priest who he like renounces his faith to is also played by Anthony Hopkins. He plays Van Helsing and the priest 400 years ago, and like to show that like, oh, they're like the same character in Dracula's life. Like the church who was opposing him and this priest who was trying to make him come to his senses when he was still human in the fucking 15th century is played by the same actor who is Van Helsing, who is going to use the power of Christ now again to fucking beat him, you know?
That's
Stuff like
very
that
cool.
is really good shorthand in movies. Yeah,
mean,
it is.
I bet you had a lot of fun with trading. I bet you had a lot of fun with the parent swap back in the day.
Okay.
Thupa, that's a movie where identical twins who were separated at birth swap. Okay, never mind.
I had a lot of fun
I
with
know,
Monty
I'm so
Python
funny, right?
because the same actor plays the guy who bangs the coconuts, and then he's the guy's son in the tower, and the knight is also his father who built a castle in the swamp, and they reuse all the actors, all the fucking and Tim is actually the other knight, and he's also the fucking guy with one eye in the cave who says, "What is your favorite color?" No, that's the guy who bangs the coconuts. That's Terry Gilliam.
Yeah, reading the cast list of the Holy Grail is great
It's
content.
just five. It's just
Michi. Like,
six, 7 actors. Yeah,
because it has nothing to do with them being cheap and also egomaniacs that like being on the camera. It's this.
no one else
easy
was
request.
as funny. No one else was funny. Green,
Okay,
no
it
blue.
was also funny.
That when he was fleeing home, I imagined the minstrels behind him going, Sir Robin, you know, he chickened out and he buggered off and he
Brave
ran
Sir
away.
Gawain.
Yeah.
Brave Sir Gawain ran away. He lived to see another.
Yeah.
No, it didn't happen like that.
He didn't even. He just ran away from the knights who say knee and didn't even bring them their fucking herring. Then he did build a shrubbery for them, though, which is good.
Yeah. Then
It's just a good shrubbery.
yeah. The knights. Oh fuck. The what was I? Okay, I was going somewhere with this. Hold on. Oh yeah, but in terms of religion, in the Green Knight, the only supernatural stuff is the bad stuff. Then when you go to the Seventh Seal, it's kind of the same thing. Where is death supernatural? Really, you can kind of think of it that way. It at least feels. It's at least more powerful than humans, and I guess that's what really matters.
It can cut down trees.
And one thing about it can cut down trees.
It takes more power to saw one on your own than most humans have. Just saying.
It's difficult. I can attend to that.
Yeah.
I don't
Have you
know if
tried to
Michi
saw
is the
one on
best
your own?
measure of that.
I just imagine Michi likes to go out in his free time and cut trees in the neighborhood and really annoys people.
Trees are normally cut down with axes rather than saws. Axe is what the Green Knight had. Ironically, even though he's a tree, he carries around the weapon of his destruction, which is used to cut down trees. So it's all connected. And then he gives that weapon to Gawain to cut him down, but then he gives it back to him, which is weird.
It is funny. I caught it this time. When the Green Knight issues his challenge, he lifts up his axe. I think he actually talks about the splendor and glory of how cool the axe is. He just throws in a little comment about how.
Did you notice it had a carving, like a drawing
It's
of
a
like
little fan servicey.
I think it had a drawing of a knight, like with like a stag or some other animal, like hunting it down, like on the image, and then that guy was a hunter later and kept bringing him stuff. So I was like, oh, it might be a subtle little nod there.
Well, in the original poem, the Lord of the Manor just is the Green Knight.
Yeah,
right?
he is. And here, like, you
Okay.
just tell from the beard. Like, you just see, the guy's face. And I'm sure they're the same actor, too. Like, you said that thing about the girlfriend being the same. I'm sure under the makeup and a bit of CG, like, the guy who's under the... I think that's probably a suit, and then they use CG on, like, the eyes and the mouth or something, I would say. Because it moves a bit, but it looked like it could be, like, made... Like, it could be a practical prop easily. And I'm sure that it's, like, the same actor for the Green Knight and the Baron, because
I feel like
any sense for it not to be.
I feel like it's a lot of stuff. I feel like
And
it's
also,
mostly
didn't you feel
practical
like
with touch-up.
in his dream, the noble lady that he marries after he goes out
that's
on his
Winifred,
girlfriend,
isn't it?
That was Winifred. Yeah, exactly. That's like his idea of like a noble, beautiful, I don't know, woman was maybe like that, or maybe she was in there to try and test like his vision, like. Because that was Saint Winifred as like an apparition, so maybe she was like in his dream to like remind him like this is wrong, and like that this would be fucked up if you left her.
Moving back to the Seventh Seal a little bit, we were talking about the religious aspect of it. One thing about the Seventh Seal, and why I jumped on the opportunity to have this topic when it looked like Michi and Thupa would be here the same day. I think the Seventh Seal is, as a movie, a really good vehicle for exploring how different types of people respond to the silence of God, which is like the theme of the Seventh Seal. Yeah. How it's not even necessarily that God's not real, it's just he doesn't talk back. He never clarifies.
Certainly doesn't talk back to that woman who's going to be burned alive.
Yeah.
Maybe some clarification would have been appreciated in that case.
Yeah, the situation was well in hand, I'm sure. And that's kind of the thing. Where
that was a little connection I noticed.
Until her head became medium rare.
I was just gonna say that woman in the stake. I'm sure Ingrid, Ingmar Bergman. He based. I'm sure he based that woman like off the look of the actress who plays Joan of Arc in The Passion of Joan of Arc, the 1920s film. She looks just like her, like with the cut short hair and like that. And his girlfriend in The Green Knight also really reminded me of that. Like they really, not just like having this short hair cut like that, but also like their faces were really similar to this like kind of punished woman archetype. In all three movies, I'm connecting those two to The Passion of Joan of Arc.
By God, Michi, I'm sure you're right. Anyways, in the Seventh Seal,
have you considered connecting the name with the Bible? Because, the Seventh Seal.
I don't see any connection between Joan of Arc and biblical stuff. Sorry. I just don't see it. If only.
I mean, Fate just doesn't like to rip off things from Bible ever.
Fate. I will say, if you watch the Seventh Seal closely, you'll notice that all over the set, there's a bunch of things that kind of look like plus signs. That's an allusion to the cross, which is a Christian image.
That's how you add everything up at the end with the plus signs.
Yeah, it's such a positive movie.
And then the angels attack the Tokyo.
I did love in The Green Knight, like the all the costume designs like so amazing, and I especially loved like the ridiculousness of like King Arthur and Guinevere's outfits. They have like little like metal. Represent like little simulacra, like little icons of like so many different things that I'm sure if I just paused the screen, that would be like scenes from the movie or something. Like King Arthur has like a little plaque of like a crown and like heroic deeds being done all over his stuff, and Queen Guinevere has like all these kind of animals and armor pieces all over her fucking dress, and it was like holy shit, they went like so into fucking detail, into like covering every like little bit of the set, every bit of like object or everyone's clothing with like little like symbolic little. I'm sure if I look up everything that's on everyone's clothing, it's like, oh, that represents innocence or challenge or whatever, like in people's lives usually. And I'm like, yeah, I love that shit in movies.
Just talking about symbolism in general, if I recall correctly, the quote was something along the line of, and when he opened the seventh seal, there was the silence of God.
Yeah.
And then there were...
Yeah.
And then there were 7 angels who stood in front with 7 trumpets.
Yeah, it's definitely something
along the line.
Seven is heaven in lots of like symbologies.
And by the way,
and not just good rhymes.
The 6th seal, when it's opened, the 4 riders of the apocalypse.
Is that Satan? Yeah, that's where like 666 and all that stuff comes from.
One of which is The death.
Yeah, true. And pestilence and plague, which is also seventh seal stuff, and famine. That's all happening in there. I mean, it's all that's there, like a little clever thing about the movie. It's like it's impossible to talk about it. Like we keep saying, like death is everywhere. Death is, and when we say that, like about the characters, it's impossible to not also be saying it about literally everywhere they go to. There's dead bodies, or the plague, or someone being killed, or suicide. Like like literally death is all around them as well.
I am amazed I did not know the actual seventh seal was the silence of God. That's wow, Thupa, you just mogged me really fucking bad.
Me and Thupa are infinitely more prepared for your podcast, even though you thought I wasn't going to show up.
I mean, I just read that shit because I just literally read that shit.
Well, cool.
Yeah, my knowledge of the Bible isn't great.
I read it because of an anime. I don't have a good excuse.
Just to clarify, people listening to the podcast, even though I keep going on about God and faith and stuff, I am an atheist. Don't think I'm religious from this podcast.
Oh,
I'm completely nihilistic.
We're gonna get there. Oh, we're almost there.
Yeah, we just think all three of us just think all this stuff is really cool.
Real? Yeah. Don't speak for me, motherfucker.
I'm not saying you're an atheist. Oh, you don't think it's cool?
He doesn't think the seventh seal is cool. Get him on this podcast. Mute his ass. Michi.
Mute. Yeah, I'm gonna mute him.
Oh yes, the eighth seal, the silence of Michi.
I'm not speaking for this ex-Mormon
The
shroomer.
seal has spoken, and forsooth he was muted. And the seven angels.
I can hold the spacebar to unmute myself, motherfucker.
Right.
Return from the grave as Christ did.
Okay. More like the devil. I was going to say real quick.
The other thing about God is that he functions in threes, and there are three of us here.
Oh, very true.
The concept of Holy Trinity.
This Mormon
maybe Asher bailing at the last minute was foreordained. Asher. Maybe Asher's like the Judas. Like, it's why isn't someone here?
Dude, I'm just like the fucking prodigal son returning at the fucking hour, and you're accepting me back into, and you appreciate me more than Thupa, even though Thupa's always here. You appreciate me, the prodigal son, more because it's more special. Well, I
actually think you're more like Peter, because you are the podcaster I love most. Sorry,
because I went. Remember the time?
But you have denied me at least 3 times now, where I keep saying, "Do you want a podcast?" You're like, "No." Do you want a podcast?
But I am going to be
podcast. No.
But I am going to be crucified upside down and then buried underneath the Vatican.
Well, who would I then be? I'm trying to think.
You're Lot, and you're.
I know, or maybe you're like what's his name? John the Baptist.
Oh,
okay. Wait, what's his name? The guy who's the Baptist.
Yeah, John the Baptist.
Yeah, maybe you're John the Baptist. You're like a forerunner to me, but you're just like out naked in the desert eating locusts and wild honey. Like you're getting confused because it's a spiritually rich but materially poor existence. And you're overshadowed by me, but you're still important.
I am low on sugar.
John the Baptist, his head gets cut off.
It does, and it gets sent on a plate to
because of a woman.
What's her name?
I forget.
God damn it.
The niece of the king. He says, "Ask for whatever you want," and she says, "I want the head of John the Baptist."
And he says, "I really should have." Put some asterisks in there. Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess.
What do you want other than the head of John the Baptist?
Yeah. What can I get you that isn't? Maybe she was. She actually wasn't expecting him to say yes. She thought he was going to say no. It's like when you ask for a horse when you want a puppy. It's like your parents are going to say no, so then you say, okay, what about a cougar? No, what about a dog? Okay, fine, you can have a fucking dog. She wanted him to say no. Okay, can I have the hand of John the Baptist? No, can I have another castle? Okay.
Anyways, I'm going to continue. You were kind of leading there yourself. The seventh seal, I wanted to do it when I had both of you here, which was looking iffy, but we finally made it happen. Because I think The Seventh Seal is a movie where it does a good job of representing how different types of people deal with the unknown and their own mortality, and how they try to relate to it. Where I think there's a few characters that most people will latch on to one pretty clearly. Looking at myself, I feel a lot like Block, the knight, the main character. the tortured
Typical
person who really
main
wants to
character
believe,
syndrome.
has
Jesus
a lot
Christ.
of. I am the. It's whose fucking podcast is it, motherfucker?
Who
Right
eats
now,
the
I
strange
am the
things
main
and
character.
And then
Okay,
hallucinates a death fucking playing chess with them.
viewer,
Yeah,
listener,
Nobody
me and
else can see other than another person
me and
that
Thupa-
hallucinates.
me and Thupa actually only exist
Sporadically.
within the podcast. We're only characters in Green's podcast. We'll try and
I
look us
mean-
up elsewhere. You won't find
You've
that
actually
place.
imagined Discord. It's not even a concept in real life.
If only. Well, at the moment, yes, you are characters in here, but yes, I relate to Block. I'm the person who really, really wants answers and has a lot of anxiety over the fact that they're not there. Where,
Let's
on average, I'm more hopeful than a lot of the other characters about where this is all going. But my inability to settle clearly into one clear answer really kind of tortures me. So I'm in this constant state of, wrestling with God, trying to figure things out, feeling conflicted. More hopeful on average than someone who's just nihilistic, but a lot more anxiety would be a way to put it. And constantly trying to playing games with death. That feels like kind of a metaphor of how I live. Not exactly, but I get that.
Okay.
Then you have the Squire Johns.
I was going to
is
say that's the one. That's the one. Even it's been a while, but if I recall correctly, that's the one I related to the most was John's on watching it because he's just
That's the
pissed
one
off
you
about
like
it.
the most. I don't know if I'm getting there. Don't subvert the core concept of why I did this.
Okay.
Okay, but let me complete it first before you ruin
Don't
it.
sabotage my
I
podcast.
thought we were all going to go around and say which characters we are in roleplay.
No, I'm telling you which one you remind me of. That's why I invited you. That's
Which one do I remind you of? Which one do I remind you of?
Anyways, some people are like John.
The baby.
They're like the Squire. They are. They respond to it by being fatalistic and just being flatly cold. Yeah, no, life just sucks. Life is just kind of horrible. The best you can do is just find a way to not care that much, take pleasure in the moment, wiggle your toes up until the last moment and see that as a triumph because you're still alive for just a little bit.
And you're going to
That
say that's
reminds me
Thupa?
of Thupa
Because
that's
he
how
loves
Thupa
Technolize.
is.
Because he watches
Actually,
Technolize
yes.
all the time. I know.
Actually, Johns would love Technolize.
If you tell me I'm the fucking dude up in the tree, I'm going to be
No.
pissed.
Okay.
You're the
Anyway,
baby because
I'm
you
death.
constantly
I'm
shit
death.
yourself.
I win. I'm
That's-
death. Yes.
That's how I see Thupa, where Thupa takes a very fatalistic thing, where I think Thupa just completely renounces hope. Any redemption at the end of this is a bonus, and his approach to life is more try to find inner peace just while we're writing this out and figure it out as you go. He's not all that invested in there being a larger plan.
Andy will
Then-
cut up your face if you fuck
Some
with him.
people, yes. And then some people, and he wouldn't even rape a woman because he's just that bored.
He's just that good.
He has to actually
just
get
that
raped
bored.
by women to even feel anything.
It doesn't do it. It doesn't do it because he's a good guy. He just because he's bored.
Yeah, he's just,
If he was
I mean,
interested,
you're not
he would.
entirely wrong.
Dude.
yes.
There
And
were
then-
occasions where I was like, sex, I'm just bored. I don't want to do it.
And then
It's
some
too
people
much effort.
enjoy life enough that they can
here
just
we go.
kind of maintain a generally good attitude about things, and they don't really need answers. It's not crushing hope so that they can survive. They can just kind of take life on its own terms, and even if things aren't okay, they're okay, And I
Okay,
think
I
about
agree.
this
I
being
can see it.
represented by the actor family,
Yeah.
and that's how I kind of see Michi, where Michi
The main
is
actor,
actually just...
Joff. Yeah.
Yeah, Joff, basically. Or the baby, who cares? How big
I'm not the fucking baby.
You're the baby. You shit yourself all the time.
And that's what I mean, where Johns, I relate to Johns in the sense that I like Johns as a character. I think he probably is the best character. He's the most likable character. He's the most interesting character.
He's the one who makes it out.
If I look at myself, does he? I
I
don't.
mean, yes.
No, not
would
Joff.
say-
Johns.
John's is you.
Oh,
The Squire. The Squire.
I'm also the painter guy in the church, sitting on his ass, finishing his commission.
Him too. Where some people can just bask in the light of emotion and aesthetics, and it's enough to get them by. Like, the bigger answers, they don't say yes or no. They can just kind of go, you know what? I don't really need the big questions because the moment is good enough usually.
Yeah.
Where
okay.
Johns
I'm
hides
happy with
from
that.
reality. Johns hides from the big questions in the moment. Block can never really enter the moment because he's so obsessed with them. But some people can just kind of enjoy the moment. And I see you as one of those.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Do you understand
It does.
why
It does. I see what you
wanted
mean.
you guys? Okay, fucking Christ.
I think.
I tried so hard.
Why
I've
was-
been writing
I
that in
think-
my head for a year, and then we finally get here, and Michi's like, "Oh, I'm the squire, right? God damn it!"
No, I was just saying. Okay, I think the reason why I said that is because of the time
You invited us here.
I think
it's
yeah.
gonna be
Yeah, you
shit
can't
like
just
this.
expect me to like.
You did this
be
to
one-to-one.
yourself. That's
You're
why
right.
you're the knight.
Thupa just didn't say he was a different character because he was just listening intently. He probably would have. No, it's just I think at the time I thought John's when I was a teenager I thought he was the coolest. Probably I just thought he was like, yeah, man, this guy is so dead to the world, such a fucking nihilist. I think I wanted to be, and still to some extent would like to be like Thupa, but you're right. I'm more like that. Like Joff guy. I mean, that's why he's in the arts, right? He's fucking going around doing theater, and I'm fucking going around drawing stuff as like our way of dealing with
Yeah, and you have a
finding a meaning and
girlfriend.
stuff. And I have a girlfriend,
And hope.
Yeah, if I get a baby, I can complete the trifecta and be the character from Seventh Seal.
Well, one thing I know about
And
Joff
you're
in
gonna
general,
fuck. Oh, and by the way, I survive, and you fuckers go and do a little dance macabre
Because of us
on the hillside. Sure, okay, whatever.
Well,
Save the
shit.
green planet, motherfucker.
oh shit.
Name drop.
Yeah, what the fuck? I didn't realize you knew what movie that was from.
I don't.
Okay, go through.
I'm just
Well, you
saying,
said-
the podcast says save the green planet, not save yourself, bro.
Well, it says
You're
Save
gonna
the Green
fucking die.
Podcast, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The Save the Green Planet is the movie it's referencing.
I know. Save the green planet is just a phrase. Whatever. Fuck you.
No, it's a movie.
It's also a phrase.
Okay, fine, it's a phrase.
Oh,
Okay,
Seven Seal is a
Thupa.
movie. It's not a term from the Bible.
It's a fucking slogan by Gridpiece as far as I'm concerned. I have no reference for any of those.
Okay, Thupa, were you about to say something? Do you have anything you can say to salvage my brilliant fucking idea that I
I
waited a
think he
year
was going to say it
share?
was stupid, actually.
I was gonna call you stupid, and then I was gonna call Green stupid, and then I was gonna say that. Actually, one thing I do know about the Knight and the Squire, is that I don't remember the quote exactly, but once again, the director of the movie said that he wanted very specifically to put two parts of himself in this movie, and they are what we start with. Is his religious, pious path in the beginning of his life, as he was a child and raised in a very religious household, and his more existential, more disillusioned part as the Squire, because the Knight is looking for higher being. He believes there is a God in the church. He fucking shouts that he wants to expel Christ, God, from his heart, but he can't. He looks for something higher, but he still wants to believe, but he just needs this extra bit. Where I think it's also somewhat representative of his later state in life, so it's not quite. I put in that quote a little to the doubt, but
I've watched some of his other movies, and he does seem like, yeah, that fits. Like,
but anyway,
wild strawberries and stuff.
The Squire is much more down to earth, where he's seen some shit on that crusade, and
Of course.
while the Knight found disillusionment in that, the Squire was like, yeah, that's some horseshit.
The thing is, the
there
Squire
can't be no God if this happens.
and like on the quest that they're on now, like the Squire it's not his thing, like it's the Knight's thing. He's just along for the ride because that's his job. He's his Squire. Like he is betrothed to like
he's betrothed to follow, but
he has
not to
follow
believe
him.
the same thing.
Exactly. It's like a fucking Don Quixote kind of scenario, where it's just like, my fucking knight is seeing death all over the place and shit, and he's like trying to figure some stuff out. He's having his own crisis, and I'll just hang with him, whatever. It's my fucking job, right? Like, it's what I've always done. If I could stick through fucking killing all those guys in the Crusades and almost dying and shit, I can stroll around with him through across the countryside for a bit more until I die.
He's a surprisingly good person, by the way.
He is. He's the nicest guy, probably.
Also,
in the movie,
great sense of humor. The scene with the fresque, chef's kiss. What does this painting that you make mean? Oh, it's to remind people that they're going to die. A little morbid, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like I think they've been reminded enough. Like just walking around.
Morbid.
That is the worst prop. You were saying some of the props are a bit shoddy. The worst one in the movie is that when they find the corpse. That always stuck out
in the beginning.
Me. Yeah, Yeah. That always annoyed me because like the movie could be like so perfect, but that always like when I see that.
I don't think it's actually that bad.
It's like it's like a fucking rubber mask. That's how I remember it. Like being it was like a shitty like horror movie rubber mask.
It just seems very theatrical to me. It seems like something I would see like right on the stage. Like it doesn't seem real at all.
But Green Knight is also really theatrical, and all the fucking skeletons in that look.
And there's also several
Yeah.
inventions of CG between the two movies.
I know. I'm not faulting. I'm not saying it's there. I'm not saying they should have fucking killed someone and fucking put their plague-ridden corpse on the floor for that movie. But there are better effects.
You know,
in earlier
did
movies,
you hear,
watch like Faust by Murnau or something, or fucking Nosferatu. The makeup on him looks better than that fucking corpse does.
That's fair.
Or Frankenstein's monster. That's amazing. That's amazing effects. You know, like 20 years earlier. So,
you were saying, Green?
Oh, this is just a little tidbit. But you guys know. I don't know, the composer, pianist, Andrei Tchaikovsky is how you say his name?
Tchaikovsky, yeah.
Yeah, him.
Yes, I do.
You might already know this, but he's someone who always loved theater, but it was not meant to be. He was never someone who could be on stage.
Did he give his skull for Hamlet?
Yeah, Michi, he gave his skull to Hamlet so that he could play Yorick in the production of Hamlet, and every now and again they actually did use his skull. I mean,
he wanted to play Yorick in League of Legends.
He knew he wouldn't live long enough till the game was made, but his skull would, so someone could turn him into a keyboard.
That's why he was immortalized in a gallery of Madame Tussauds.
But that's just a fun piece of trivia. The same theater troupe that back in the day would dress up little boys in drag because women were not allowed on stage, eventually used the skull of a famous composer to play Hamlet. So just a fun little bit of trivia.
I think David Tennant held his skull when he did Hamlet.
He probably did.
Yeah.
It sounds like something he would do.
Yeah, sure. He could do that.
Okay. Okay.
But despite the fact that the two knights are
exactly no, hold on, that's my thing. If that Tchaikovsky could give a skull to that play, then why couldn't someone give their corpse to the Seventh Seal to make it look better? See,
we could use yours if it was taller.
That's nothing to do with special effects.
You know, I think the reason
my
was
skull
because
isn't
nobody...
short. It's large due to my large brain.
I meant your skeleton.
Oh, okay.
You don't need the whole Green Knight 2, after Michi dies, is going to have this whole sequence where Gowan is looking down going, a great battle was fought here by midgets. That's so interesting.
The hobbits, they didn't make it.
The hobbits that were killed by Sauron. Oh my god.
Would they do the Lord of the Rings? If they ever do a Lord of the Rings where they include the scouring of the Shire, you can be the hobbit corpses.
If they ever do a Lord of the Rings where they include Tom Bombadil, you can play him.
I can make a great elf. I'm very high self-esteem of myself. I am tall.
You have pointy
ears.
I
am very skeletal.
You have pointy ears.
No, I don't have pointy ears. But I do have a
fuck
pointy
off.
nose.
What?
Pointy nose.
Pointy
Nose. Oh, I
noise.
thought you said. I thought you said something about your dick or something.
Why do you always think about my penis, Michi?
It's just always on my mind. What can I say?
I can't understand
that elven dick that I've heard so much about.
God damn.
It's why
Anyway,
that
The
we're off
legends have
topic.
even
Yeah.
reached Portugal.
Well, it's why that elven princess in the Lord of the Rings gave up her mortality to be with Aragorn. She finally got to take a dick that didn't have a barb on it.
my God.
My God.
I'm sorry. I just
Did
like
you know,
the way.
according to the Simulacron or whatever the fuck, elves they can sing in their sleep. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, they say they can sing, but it's usually just screaming.
It's screaming about their barbed cocks.
Yeah. Remember when Gandalf? Remember when Gandalf was in the mines and he yelled, "Who
Yeah.
needs their Balrussi 8?" That was such a good line.
Said, "Fool of a took, fall on my cock
Okay.
next."
It wasn't actually Balrog, it was Balcock.
No, it was meant.
Boo.
Balrog was actually supposed to be M. Bison, and M. Bison was supposed. Balrog was supposed to be called M. Bison, which is actually supposed to be Mike Tyson. But they switched the names around, so Mike M. Bison became Balrog.
Well, you see, Balrog was actually standing for toxic
doesn't have wings.
masculinity, as the man
Anyways.
overwhelms a white, small, fragile figure.
Yeah, when he said you
Okay,
shall not
this is
pass,
actually-
he meant
And the big
he
black
meant-
man that crushes
This is
him
actually
as the land goes under.
this is actually what we're going to lead into next.
It is.
What, crushing pussy?
Kind of, yeah. Well, this is a big distinction with the Seventh Seal this is the Seventh Seal versus the Green Knight. One
Yeah.
aspect of it, the Seventh Seal, it is
Has
a
no
culture
sex.
that was very intact, and it started breaking down. The conditions of daily life became so divorced from the ideals and the stories of the people that they started losing their power. Or on the other side, some people just go crazy. Like the people who are mortifying their flesh, going around in parades, walking through the villages, causing a ruckus.
Yeah.
They're so hysterically out of touch with the world that they're just diving into their stories and symbolism and rituals so hard, they're not even trying anymore. They're not even paying attention to reality. They're just living in the world of Christian ritual. That's all they're doing. But then you have a lot of people like Johns and Block who are having such a hard time with life that they're just falling out of it. A really good example of that is the priest who actually, the priestly initiate who back in the day convinced Block to go on the crusade.
Yeah.
And now he's just a low-rent
Rapist.
thief that steals from, he rapes women, he steals from corpses, or vice versa, I forget. The culture has fallen apart, people have fallen out of role, they don't have an idea of what they're supposed to do or believe in that is actually satisfying anymore. When you go to the
God,
Green
you're
Knight...
so funny.
What?
God, you're so funny.
Why am I funny?
I think he's making fun of your joke landing flat.
You're so funny.
I'm so funny.
Ha ha ha.
Thupa, you've laughed at my jokes before. You know, just...
I like how that's your argument. You've laughed at some of them, right?
But he's laughed more at me making fun of you.
You laughed at my jokes before. That wasn't funny.
Don't you laugh at my jokes anymore?
when you go to the Green Knight, you have a society, you have a system where the culture is intact and pretty functional. It's pretty healthy. Basically, everyone believes in it. The only problem is participating in this culture, if you're one of the chosen few who are going to be its heroes, fucking sucks. And that's kind of the problem. Where Gowan's whole thing is he lives in this social situation where there is a script of how a young man like Gowan is supposed to live and who he's supposed to turn into. And Arthur is very specifically steering him into it. When Gowan realizes what he has to do, and he looks up at Arthur and says, "Is this really worth dying for? I'm supposed to just go and let this guy cut my head off?" And Arthur responds by saying, "Is it so wrong to want greatness for you?"
Yeah.
Arthur is not thinking in coldly pragmatic, object level terms. He's thinking in terms of, I am the king, I am performing a role for these people.
It's all set up.
I'm a main character in this grand story. I have this potential heir, or at least someone who is going to be really important to this system and this social apparatus I'm upholding. I have to push him out as a sacrifice and maybe let him die because it's what we are. It's what we do. We're knights. We're in a role. Important. If you don't get to decide, if you want the social system to work, if you want the culture to maintain itself, you don't get to ask rational questions about whether or not it really matters. If you have a young man who has been marked for greatness by the forces of the world, you just have to push him out. And he doesn't really want to do it. He wants the glory, but he doesn't want the work to do it. But he has this role that is putting this weight on his shoulders, and he just feels like, I have to do it. Where in Seven Seal world, the culture's broken. People can do whatever the fuck they want. Johns basically says, I could rape this woman, but I just don't feel like it. Gowan is crushed by a world where everyone he knows is plugged into this...
Gowan needs to go to the prostitutes. He can't just rape anyone.
Yeah, exactly, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's kind of true.
He has to have a relationship with one.
Yeah.
Whether it be monetary or romantic. Exactly.
But Gowan has a role. He has a cultural role that is very strict and narrowly defined, and his choice is basically, I can abandon it, but then I'm not an important part of the culture. I'm just a physical body that lives in the area. I'm just a cluster of me and cum going through life until I die. If I want to be an important person in this and be in with my family, I have to fulfill my role.
Yeah,
I think that's what makes the Green Knight very different.
Block had that when he was in the Crusades.
Yeah, but he found out it was bullshit.
Well, exactly. When the Crusades are over, it's like, well, shit, I did all that for nothing, and now I don't have a purpose, and I'm just fucking aimlessly wandering around here. Yeah, exactly.
But then Gowan's problem...
historically, were quite well abused by church for fucking just profit or political relevance, right?
Crusades are all like... Well, that's the point of the Crusades. It's like, it's just for gaining like territory and wealth in the guise of reclaiming the Holy Land and propagating
Christianity. And I don't know it as well, but my understanding is some of the Crusades, I think the earlier ones, made more sense.
Yeah,
initially
it was much more ideological and like, oh, this is what we all want to do. After a bit, it was just like, well, we just can't let ourselves keep getting beaten. Let's just keep and subsequent ones are all like much more disastrous than the first ones. Like loads of them are just like a bunch of people getting on a ship and fucking getting shipwrecked, and people arriving there and like dying from fucking starvation before they even get to Jerusalem.
They became a lot more sporadic.
Yeah, exactly. They're
much less organized.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, Gowan's Oh, no, keep going, Thupa.
One thing that I really want to stress about the Seventh Seal is that, so there is this, the title of the movie is religious. The two characters that we meet first in the movie are fucking two stages of the author and his disillusionment with religion in the different periods of his time. And you would think that the author would take like a kind look at the religion after that, and he really doesn't. I mean, one of the most fucking telling things, except the fucking flagellants walking into town and saying you can die in the next hour and you do not know, kneel and embrace God in your heart, wretches, after burning a witch. Fucking... That's unpleasant, but one of the things that like really sticks in my head is, once again, the church scene where Block talks to a hooded person that literally is death and not a monk at all.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that a little telling?
It's like there's no solace for him anywhere.
There are no confessors. Yeah. There's death.
Yeah.
Well, people...
It's true.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a difference what the fuck he told that guy, even if he was a priest or a monk or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. The guy's like, doesn't give him hand him the cure for the plague. Oh, here you go.
No, it's more so the idea that talking to people
Oh yeah, it's
that,
supposed to
that
ease
are
him,
there
but yeah.
are literally death.
Yeah, I guess. I just want to say really fast. You were saying that about the author and about what you said, Green. One of the few things I read in like the 10 minutes before we started the podcast and after I watched the movie on the Wikipedia thing was that the director, the relationship between Gawain and his mother was like the director was like trying to reflect his, which like his mom had to kind of push him into taking on the challenges of becoming an adult. You know, like he didn't want to like. Become an adult, come into adulthood as easily as like some people do. You know, his mom had to like really like kind of pressure him and challenge him into coming into his own and becoming independent, which is cool and plays in with your theory. Yeah,
it is cool. It's very cool. But it's the mother being so involved does fuck up my theory a little bit because she's a woman. But I think the thing with
Why do you hate women so much?
I don't hate. I
just
don't
like
know.
Sherlock Holmes. What the fuck?
I'm just like Sherlock Holmes. Exactly. I don't know what you mean, but I'll take that.
Brilliant, but prejudiced against women.
I wouldn't call him Sherlock Holmes. I'd call him more of a Moriarty, but sexist.
Moriarty probably also was sexist, but Sherlock Holmes, Watson repeatedly tells him to his face, like, oh man, you keep having your low opinion of women, and that's why they fuck you over. That's why you can get outsmarted by Irene Adler.
He also looks more like the Hound of Baskerville.
The dog?
You guys you're joking, but you're still praising my brilliance, so... On the whole, am I the loser
I called
here?
you a dog, by the way.
Yeah.
He was
a clever dog. He could fucking
compared
sniff out the Baskerville from fucking miles away, man.
Well, we compared Thupa to a dog last time, but it was Ein from Bebop, so it's the data dog.
That is a clever dog.
It is a clever dog.
That's a clever girl.
Yeah, but the difference, but in Seventh Seal World, culture has very little to offer.
It's called Sweden, Green. It's called fucking Sweden. Stop
fine.
calling it that when you go over there and telling the cops and shit.
Fine. Fuck you. We're doing this. Fuck you.
And the other one is called England, by the way.
People have nothing to offer you. If you're in Sweden, you're in fucking hell. In Sweden, the people are self-centered. They don't care at all. They're all cynical and burnt out and over it. All they have uniting them is a residual hatred of Muslims from the Crusade. Yeah. And the faintest glimmerings of the pagan-filtered Christianity that wants to find
death
them.
Walks among the Swedish.
And death walks among the Swedes. In Sweden, culture has fallen apart. The aspects of human life which get power from people copying each other and holding them in common, those are just malfunctioning. So unless you're so locked into that you're one of the flagellates, it's just everything is horseshit. Gawain, he goes through life and he realizes, oh, my actual quest is horseshit, but everyone behind me believes it. And he is being pushed forward by this understanding. These commonly held and these mutually copied patterns that all the people I care about are locked into with each other, except maybe the hooker. I can't be a part of that unless I go through with it. So he's going through the real world, not Sweden, but the real world, and constantly experiencing my actual life is just fucking nonsense. But I'm trying to fulfill this story, and when I get back there, they have to be able to tell a story about me that is satisfying. I think we need a moment because Thupa is having a moment.
I'm back.
He's back.
Okay, but I don't know if you heard what I just said. I don't know if you just heard what I said, Thupa. But I said like Gawain's problem is back in Sweden, culture is just gone. The things that have power because everyone believes them at the same time, those are malfunctioning.
Swedish bad.
Yeah, in Camelot, the aspects of life that have power because everyone believes them at once, those are still real. Gawain is the only one who knows their horse shit, or at least has to experience the horse shit in the moment. Arthur did back in the day, but he won, so he got to be a part of the story. So Gawain is out in the real world. He's out in the wilderness fighting the Green Knight, who's the embodiment of death and nature. And he's constantly experiencing this nonsense of he is fulfilling a story for the people back at home, but his actual moment-to-moment experience is just fucking garbage. And it's not glorious, and it's not a story at all. And he's almost a prisoner to the narrative because the expectations of everyone behind him are pushing him forward, but he can't enjoy any of it.
Yeah.
And like that's what makes him so different than Block.
So you're saying in Camelot, you like to push the pram a lot.
Camelot is a silly place.
Yeah, it is a silly place. Where the knights of the round table.
We fight when we are able.
Except for Gawain.
Except for Gawain, because he's a pussy, and he runs away. No, but that thing you said about it being a prison, that really clicked.
Just
for
imagine me running
like,
towards both of you while I'm drumming.
No, but okay.
The horse sound is Thupa's ass.
Every shot of Gawain in Camelot, you're right. It doesn't feel like he's at home. It feels like oppressive and claustrophobic. And the only place where he feels like free is like at the brothel. Because everywhere else, it's like this gray, scary place with all these old bearded men or his mom or Merlin just looking down on him, being like, "You're kind of our last hope, and you're a fucking like debaucherous drunkard who spends his time with a whore." And you're the last knight of Camelot. Like my son, who the seat is empty, fucking Mordred. He fucked off, and he's gonna come back and kill me on a bridge. And you're my last kin, and every time I see you, you're fucking drunk and got mud all over your face because you've been bar brawling and you're hungover. Yeah, so we're gonna keep you like in prison because we have to fucking steer you because you're too important for us to let like ruin your life on your own. So we're gonna fucking set everything up for you, basically. Yeah. And you're gonna stay in this silly place and play around with your cutlery and push the pram.
Yeah. I keep saying culture, which is a traditional way of putting it, but it's a world of expectations and hierarchy and people projecting and ideas. Like, ideas matter so much in Camelot, and the ideas are often realer than the people who embody them. Like, Arthur is a pretty straight shooter, but a lot of the knights are just assholes.
Yeah, they're symbols. Like, his sword is more important. Like, that's how the movie starts. It's like talking about Excalibur. Well, no, it's talking about the sword he pulled from the stone. Excalibur is the one he got from the lake, but still.
And Arthur really works as a character because Arthur has been through the ringer. He understands that when you're in the thick of it, it's a brutal melee where everything is chaotic and it's just kind of a Darwinian struggle. Then when you win, you come back and the story is something you tell later. Gawain thinks that the story is there while you're living it, and he does not find stories out in the woods.
Dude,
he finds giants and Winifred and foxes. And
he finds exactly the lie that he's been hearing, because he finds the fucking battlefield of dead people, right? And what does the kid say? He says, they say the king killed 960 on his own.
Who, my uncle? What the fuck?
Exactly. We've seen the king. That guy can't kill anyone. Like, and that makes you think, like, maybe all the other shit you've heard about Arthur, even when he was young, most of it was also bullshit. Because you're seeing, this is the heroic quest you would like to have taken part in, this fucking epic battle, where but it's just a bunch of corpses on this fucking field, and a kid picking their fucking rings off their fingers. That would have been you if you were going to follow your uncle. And the reason your uncle killed 960 and didn't die is because he wasn't even fucking there.
That's how good he is.
Think he is. Yeah, people just say he is. Because if he had been there, he would have fucking fallen off his horse.
Like Richard III. He uses psychic damage.
He used this psychic. He asked his sister to do an astral projection of him on the battlefield.
He used Cloud Kill in the crowd. It was very effective.
Bringing it back
he used his AoE attack.
And if I bring it back to the idiom of culture versus nature, which I think is a very strong thing, and again, that was a standard medieval idea. That's how they looked at it. Is, men are culture. Men build things that are planned.
We go out
and they use ideas.
Nature.
Women are nature. They just produce things. They just
That's
are
why
instinctual.
It's called,
they just are reality.
That's why you have Mother Nature, Father Time. Am I right?
Yeah, and
I am.
father culture,
But
sure.
Father
objection
culture.
to that,
Okay, that's the closest one I could get. But
Crony, the VTuber, is the warden of time.
All right.
and
as-
Gura is a shark.
And a way to think about that is
And Mume is an owl.
Stop.
and
we
a
can't
way
keep
to
going.
and a way to think about that is men lay plans and they project ideas and ideals, things that aren't really found in nature except imperfectly, but the idea is so much better than the reality. They project these plans out in the world, and then nature just fucks with it constantly. And that's what Gowan is doing. He has this path he's trying to blaze through the wilderness, which is his vision of his nightly quest and his obligation to the people back home. And then his plan is just constantly fucking undercut by nature, by people's base instincts, by his own base instincts, by his own physical and emotional weakness, by all the little details of chaos out in the world that undermine the plan that he's trying to enact. And when he gets to the... what?
I don't think it's quite as much about the nature there as much as it's about erosion of time. Through time, I should say.
Well, that's part of it. Like, entropy
That is
a
why
part
they're
of nature.
Yeah, that is like what they're showing by like having everyone be these
Nature
fucking old
also-
gray bearded men. Instead, you're hearing it's like an Arthurian movie. You're expecting to see, even like King Arthur is supposed to have like these radiant golden locks. Like even his hair is like half of it is gray, and like all the other knights look like Merlin now. Everyone looks like Merlin.
And
Nature
Merlin
in this
looks
movie-
younger than he used to. What the fuck?
Yeah. He's sucking
does,
their
actually.
youth. He's a vampire. Yeah,
I
it's like
didn't even think about that. But no, nature in this movie more so serves as the vehicle for the concept of the erosion of time. Because nature is persistent, it doesn't go out anywhere, and eventually it will win. Just
exactly.
like time.
That's why I
You
said
cannot-
father time is like everything in civilization and culture. Like
And
it
I
changes
said
with the
Crony
times.
the warden of time.
Yeah,
And that's
Mother
basically
Nature
what I
is
mean,
always
where-
young. Yeah.
Where culture is, it's a cluster of ideas and plans and expectations. Where men build things, then they're slowly destroyed by nature. Then men build more things, and they're slowly destroyed by nature.
Then I
And it's
I built another castle and it sunk. But then I
Yeah,
built a
exactly.
third castle and that one
exactly.
stood. Yeah.
And when they get to the
And then
when
French
they
took it over. And they were really rude on the walls.
and when they eventually get to Perv Guy Manor and they're hanging out in there,
He says, I
They
pull
have
on you
extend-
and your English and your Arthur King.
I speak
have-
in your general direction with this outrageous accent.
I fart in your general direction.
Yeah,
Thupa.
yeah. Fuck you, Thupa.
I'm
You don't get to
sorry.
fucking talk anymore. Your father smelled of
Yeah.
elderberries and your mother was...
As a hamster.
What a hamster.
But when they get
Sorry,
in
Green.
when they get to Weirdo Manor, they have extended conversations about this. One of the most pretentious, but I think most telling moments in the whole movie
I know what
is
you're
when
talking about.
is when they're sitting around the fire and they're just having conversations about this, where the man says the world is full of chaos. It's full of things that you cannot understand. But a man's home should be safe from all that. 4 walls, joined at the seam, strong foundation of fire within. The chaos is always trying to come in. All men can really do is build things that they hide inside of and try to live in for a while.
And then,
then the
ends
wo-
eat your plants.
Thupa, can we not? My plants are my greenhouse has seen better days. I had a growth of aphids, and I think my measures to control them made things worse.
Hey, dude,
see-
every house you're in is a greenhouse.
You see, this ties back into the concept of reverse reality, where the concept of time is reversed within your house, as no life that is natural can exist there.
But that conversation with the woman was interesting because not only was it what you were saying that like nature, like culture and civilization and stuff erode with time, but that conversation specifically showed nature as the cause of that erosion. Like literally that like moss and rot and vines and all plants and shit are like destroying the fabric of civilization, like weeds growing everywhere, and just like weakening the foundations of fucking castles that you think will last forever. No. Yeah.
That's a big part of the message of the movie, and that's often embodied very literally in this masculine versus feminine influence on Gawain, where Arthur is culture par excellence. He hands him a sword. He lures him into this adventure with the promise of a royal title and the opportunity to sit at the side of the king, where in terms of nature, Arthur is just a monkey in a suit. He's not a special exalted person biologically in terms of the nature of what he is. Maybe he is a little bit, but he's not. But it's not at that level. It's the cultural dream we spin around Arthur that makes sitting at his side that important. And Arthur tries to teach him the game, the cultural game. Yeah. He tries to coax him with the Green Knight situation into learning how to do a kind of tit for tat of understanding rules that were just made up and being able to use them in a way where you win. It's a game. Like that's the world of men. It's the world of games and violence through games. Then,
he's trying to teach him how to fence, and he just lobs the guy's head off.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, you're supposed to bow. We have a system. You're supposed to hit at these points and counter like this. That's how we function like in high society and stuff. You're just going there. This guy is being polite, and you're just trying to goad him on, and you just chop his head off. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that is actually a very specific subset of fencing. You see, there's fencing with a rapier,
there's
with
penis
saber.
fencing.
Okay, Thupa, in what branch of fencing is it appropriate to cut the other person's head off?
Yeah, exactly. Especially after he laid down his arm.
That would be more appropriate to saber, as those are focused on the cutting motion than the poking one.
If he was a true knight, he would have sheathed his blade after the guy laid down his arms. He's not an executioner.
Yeah. And the code of chivalry is...
Well, did Block ever do that in his crusades?
Block you never see Block fucking brandish a weapon, and that is a strength of that movie. Like, that he's just the idea of like an old knight, and his hair's all gone white from the fucking crusades.
Yeah, but chivalry is a game, and the whole code of conduct with knights, at the end of the day, they have to go out and kill each other. But on top of that, there's this whole foundation of they find little ways to structure the world that make it more controllable, more predictable, gives them a way to settle things with less violence than they might need. The whole idea of an honor culture is that if people demonstrate they're willing to fight, then they're less likely to have to actually fight. And if you have this warrior code where you can predictably decide when people will fight and when they will not, that gives the leaders the power to control when and where fights happen to some degree. That's the whole fucking concept. It's like, there's this nature aspect of it's a biological struggle, but we're not just running around in a mob hitting whoever happens to be near us and taking their shit. We get into this society. We organize it a bit, but then for that to work, we have to kind of invent an imaginary image of what the right kind of fighter does and what he's motivated by and how he looks at other people who are also fighters. And they build this structure, and then nature, just primal violence that's disorganized, slowly wears it down. And this whole system only works if people believe in Arthur. So Arthur is culture. Then you have Gawain with his whore girlfriend, where culturally...
I was just gonna say, Arthur's motherfucking crown literally has a fucking built-in halo.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you just look at him and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, literally. His actual body doesn't emit light, but the thing that humans made and give him as a signal to coordinate around, it does. Yep. But then the nature side, the feminine side, if you look at Gawain's relationship with his whore girlfriend, his girlfriend, in terms of nature, in terms of just how they experience each other directly in real life, they really like each other.
They're really natural, you could say, with each other.
Yeah. But in culture world, in the world of titles and social status and hierarchy, she's a whore. So he can't be with her. Because she can't be the queen. She's a whore. Like, there's no biological difference between her and her as a queen. But culturally, she's a whore. Then as he goes to then when they go to the mansion, the Lord of the Manor gives a speech about how walls are important and how you build things to be safe from the world outside. and the female just grabs his fucking dick and jerks him off and fucking shoots cum all over his little sash.
All over his
and
sash and hand.
And just kind of goes, oh, there, you had your knightly code of ethics. That's what your basic nature says about your code of ethics. It's cum in your hands.
It's also
so get knighthood is bullshit. You're a fucking monkey with a penis. You are not a chivalrous enactor of God's will. Go wash your cum off in the creek. Go enjoy that.
You're taking this bell as like a kind of like symbol that you will be like faithful to this woman who is a prostitute. Like while you're away, like being like, oh, I already have like my love. Like she's banging other clients, dude. Presumably, I mean, maybe she quit her job because he gave her money. I don't know, but anyway, it's especially ironic because like we have that whole scene of like that imaginary scene of him like leaving her because like, oh, my son would be a bastard if I don't marry, you know, like I guess he is a bastard still, but it's weird. It's like ironic considering like Gawain is like an incest. No, he's not a bastard. Sorry, but
incest?
No. Well, no. That's King Arthur's son. Mordred is an incest. Like King Arthur himself, his son, who is like, oh, my son isn't here. His son is a bastard, and King Arthur himself is kind of a bastard because he was only born because Merlin turned his dad to look like his mother's husband, so that they could have sex. So he's kind of a rape.
I am fucking lost at this point. I'll be honest.
I'm saying that King Arthur himself, even though he seems like he's such a holy symbol, he's born of like a lie. He's basically like he's no like, you know, like Gawain's being like, oh, I can't have a whore wife and a whore son, so I'm gonna like pretend that he's the son of this noblewoman. When his uncle is like the fucking pinnacle dude. He's also like born from a fucking rapey episode. He's not born from a kingly father and queen just coming together. He's born from a ruse made by Merlin to trick a woman into. Not trick the woman, trick the husband, not knowing that his wife is like cheating on him with this fucking other dude. Yeah,
Michi, remember it's just a game.
Exactly. That was the point of view of his father and of his mother. His mother actively wanted to. I said rape before because I was getting confused because in some versions she doesn't know that it's not her husband, but in the main ones she actually does, and she wants. Like, you know, she wants like other people to think that he was just having sex with her husband when she knows that it's actually Uther Pendragon. But regardless of either version, she's not having. King Arthur's a bastard. Full point. There, done. And it's like they're not married.
But the issue here is
she's a whore.
But the issue here is culture is a lie.
Yeah, exactly. No one knows that.
Are fragile, they're lies. The more involved you are in producing this stuff like Arthur is, the more you know it's a load of horseshit. Nature is so much stronger than culture that culture is just like it's just four walls that you throw up every now and again. It gets crushed by nature and you do that forever. Culture is just like a little insect floating on top of the ocean that is nature.
Yeah.
But, and this is where the movie gets interesting, you still have to do it. Because if we get to the end of the movie, Thupa, I hope you're excited. You get to talk about the end of the movie.
I was just going to say we should get there.
As we get to the end of the movie...
I was trying to bring it around there for at least an hour.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, we've gone past the runtime of the movie, so let's do it.
Well,
both
we talked
movies,
about
actually.
We talked about 2 movies. We're not at 4 hours, Thupa. Are we?
Is it that long?
No.
The Seventh Seal? I thought
No.
it was
2.5.
like an hour and a half. Really? It's longer than Gawain.
No,
I didn't
2.5
remember it
hours
being
will
that
be
long.
here. The movie is like roughly a bit, hour and 20.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was short.
Yeah, but what was I saying? Oh yeah, but as we get to the end of the movie, we see the bad future. We see where Gawain says, fuck it, okay, this is all a load of horseshit anyway. I'm just going to run away from my death because of course
Pretend
I am.
I did it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go, then I am now officially on Team Nature, baby. I'm going to save my own fucking ass. I'm going to stay alive. I'm going to go fuck the prostitute. I'm going to live for as long as possible. And then the kingdom is destroyed because he does that.
And he doesn't live that long, presume. I mean, I guess he lives, 18 years for his
No,
son to be
Well,
of
he was
age
going to
for
live.
the... No,
he was
going
going
to
to
go
live
when he was
13
16.
fucking seconds if he let the knight cut his head off. So
True, I know.
still,
I know.
I mean,
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that he doesn't get to die old and happy and have like a kingdom. It's
That
still
is
cut short. He
Yeah.
still wasn't ready to die when those guys break down his fucking door.
yeah. And in a way, was he actually alive the whole time?
Oh,
Like, did he suffer a spiritual death when he
that
ran
was
away from his
interesting.
destiny?
That in his 13-second to him vision, he imagined the kid that stole his stuff when he's going across the field. He saw him still there, which was weird.
Oh yeah.
Because like
Because you see-
that kid said he was going to go to Green Knight, and then he finds his horse next to the Green Knight. He finds his axe in the fucking house for some reason, and then he sees that kid back on the same on another battlefield, presumably. So I guess he's just a spirit of death around all battlefields.
Yeah. When you embrace being a piece of shit, everything just starts working out. What can I say?
Okay, but
I mean, yes, that's worked that way.
Okay, Thupa,
Yeah.
hold on. Interestingly, you kind of alluded to at the beginning of the podcast that you thought that the knight chopped his block off. His block off.
At least they didn't chop it. At least they didn't chop his jaw off. Am I right?
His Johns. He had more than one. But yeah. So is that
what
the ending you
dance we're
prefer?
performing here? The dance macabre.
Is that the end? Is that the ending like you prefer to think, or that you think makes more sense? Rather that he just accepts his mortality and the Green Knight chops his fucking head off like he did to him, like the
My
little
issue,
play, like the little play
personally-
did with the little Punch and Judy show. Yeah.
My issue with the ending is that I have several interpretations of it, and I don't know which one of them to really believe.
Oh, sorry.
Which one of them to believe?
When I saw them on the beach and he was choking her, I was like, "Fuck!" Is the
At
humanity
the end of
over?
Evangelion?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's
That's
what
what
I was
we're talking
alluding
about.
to. I was making fun of ambiguous endings, obviously having multiple
Oh
interpretations.
fuck! I thought I forgot a scene in the movie.
No, I'm making fun of it because at the beginning of the podcast I mentioned that he jerked off. He had semen on his hand, just like Shinji.
Fuck, man.
Yeah,
Green,
dude,
you're
he's
so
disgusting.
fucked up.
Yeah, he's so fucked up, right? And he's Kimochi, Waru. But
You know, Gowan though, he could
at
run
the end
away.
of the Killing Joke, did he really strangle the Joker? Who knows? No, I was just
Well,
saying.
that one's
of course,
silly.
Yeah, that one is stupid. I had a friend who always used to say that he killed the Joker, and I'd be like,
But
fuck
yeah.
off.
the way I first watched it, and the way I first understood it initially was literally he goes there to the Green Knight. The Knight cuts him, but he runs away, and he has the sash on him, which gives him immortal. So he goes on.
But he took the
knowing
sash
that-
off. Oh, all right. You didn't know it was a dream sequence the first time.
Wait.
Of course, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, let Thupa finish.
So
Sorry.
we consider it that he had the sash on, and he runs off with his head cut off, but it doesn't fall off because he literally can't die with the sash on. And so he goes on with his life, knowing that his legacy is a lie, that it's all made up,
Kayfabe.
and he tries to bullshit his way through life, but karma eventually catches on to him.
Yeah.
And so he sits in his throne room, surrounded by people whom he have betrayed
You
in
could say
spirit and in fact.
It's a throne of blood.
Throne of Lies, too.
Game of Thrones.
His head got chopped off. The throne must have been really pokey.
hey,
just so
Michi.
sharp.
Remember, it's all just a game.
God, we're so sharp here.
I better
Yeah,
get Kaiji
yeah.
on this fucking thing so you can. Kaiji would be the ultimate fucking. He would beat the Green
What?
Knight at his own game.
He would trick the Green Knight into cutting his own head off.
Yeah, exactly. He'd do something like that. He would like through some weird loophole. He'd be like the letter didn't say that that he would cry and laugh about it.
All he needs to do
Anyways.
first is cut off some of his fingers.
So
Okay,
you're saying because
boo.
if he took the sash off, like, that means he died?
And so he sits on his throne with people who trusted in him betrayed both spiritually and physically, and he takes his sash off, and his head falls off. Because he was dead
if it weren't for the
along.
sash. And the way that he took like the sash off, like it was guts, and then his head fall off, is totally just like a samurai movie homage. Like he's pulling his guts out from cutting his belly, and then someone else has chopped his head off to finish his suffering from his committing seppuku. So he's saying basically to keep the sash on and run would be to commit seppuku, just really prolonged, painful, sad seppuku.
But then we go a layer deeper, where suddenly
it's just like
he's
ogres.
no longer dead, and he's in that cave, and he was sitting there waiting for the night to come around.
Yeah, it's the Twilight Zone episode, like I was talking about.
And he asks him, was there ever any meaning? Was there something beside this? And the knight says, should there be? And there isn't. And so he goes to cut him, and then he takes off his sash. And this is where I am a little split, because
that's where I think he lives, because he took off the sash. Yeah, but
that's
you could
not
say he
what-
dies, exactly.
I am certain he dies.
Okay. Well,
The place where I'm split is where I like to believe that this can be taken literally.
yeah, that's yeah.
The previous part where it actually happened, and the sash was sort of a lie. Its function wasn't so much to preserve his life as to save his moment there and prolong it infinitely, so he can believe that he lived out his life.
Oh, that is I accept that as a cool way of seeing it.
Interesting.
The thing-
I did not have that thought at all.
No, me neither. But the whole thing with the sash, like it's getting if we like take it that like all the people he encounters, this is like an odyssey kind of thing, and they're all like spiritual manifestations of something. Like it seems that like taking his sash immediately away at the beginning of the adventure seems to be a way of like making him kind of suffer, and he's scared now, and he knows he's not safe because
Well, it makes him vulnerable.
Yeah, exactly. It makes him vulnerable, and then they give it back to him exactly at the moment where now he has to decide, like, do you want that back? Do you want that little safety net back now? Like, will you take it? Did you learn stuff from your challenge? Like, he should have known that he could do it without it, basically, but they give it back to him, and so he shows, like, his vulnerability. And, yeah, then at the end,
he's given a choice.
Exactly. But if we're going, like, okay, if I see, like, two logics here. To me, if it's, like, movie logic from the film, then from what they told us just in the film, then I'm like, if the sash really did work and he took it off, or whether it didn't work, either way, like he just gets his head chopped off, I'm in agreement with Thupa, pretty much. But I'm thinking, if you think of like the legend, and it's like, well, the poem rather, in that it's like he has had first few strikes, like they don't hurt him because he didn't commit any of the problems, like he kept his promises and stuff. But then the last one, he's wearing the sash, and the axe nicks his neck like a bit, because it's like, that's the thing that you erred in. You didn't tell the Lord about the sash, you kept it. That's why I've cut your neck a bit. And now go home, like, shamed, and the whole court, they all start wearing sashes, because, like, if the best of us couldn't do that trial without faltering a bit, then none of us would be able to, so we're all going to wear the sash of shame. So if he took it off, which would by the legend logic, and he kind of returns it, then the third strike would have done nothing to his neck, like, because he didn't even keep the sash, so he didn't falter in any way, and so the axe has no reason to cut him. You see what I mean? I think removing it kind of removes his sin, and then would make so that the knight doesn't kill him.
Well, that comes back to the other thing that I have interpretation of the ending, that it's more closely to what the movie probably wants you to think, that that it was like a flashback and whatever, or he was sleeping. So essentially, it didn't happen. He kind of lived it out. And the big message at the end of the movie is that you kind of just have to embrace the end.
Sure.
And he gives away his immortality, and then the night cuts him as he solemnly just accepts his fate.
But I could see it the other thing happening, like him removing that makes the
And I
knight
think it
either
devalues
choose.
the message.
It could be okay. I could see like it could also just be like a lesson learned, like the axe doesn't kill him, or the knight does not kill him because he took off his sash and he knows because he was the lord, so he's like, you did the right thing, so I'm not going to kill you. And he goes back, and because he saw that whole like vision or whatever, he's like, I guess I'll stay with my prostitute and I won't be like an asshole about it. And now I'm actually ready to become king because I went through with this, you know?
Yeah,
I can see a happy ending from it. I think it's a possibility.
I think that's the idea. Where I think this
exactly
movie,
both. Yeah,
I think the theme of this movie. Are you okay, Thupa?
I just wanted to stress something you've mentioned before.
Okay, real quick. I'm not moving on, but go ahead.
Isn't it funny that the two characters you said we were, Thupa went with the nihilistic ending, and I went with the.
Exactly.
I think exactly. Yeah, I'm being
Exactly.
It's almost like I'm going to say something that it leaves ambiguity, but endorses traditional values too. It's so weird, right? go through
Wheel
it.
of Time. There is no beginning. There is no end. It's all written out.
Wow! It's the fabric of reality in the Wheel of Time, literally.
The wheel keeps on spinning. But
I can hear you, Thupa. Go do your thing.
But the thing I wanted to stress is that, as Green mentioned, he kind of invited me because here I am. I'm incredibly nihilistic.
I am a technolize.
I have transcended past it, but I do resonate with the message. But yeah, fucking, I see this and its finality, and you see like past the finality and want to see something better in the end, where Green just takes it away into femininity, masculinity, at random, and complains about women and prostitutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you done?
Sure.
That's all you want.
I can always go on and burn you a little more, but I think you've had enough.
You'll get me more eventually, I'm sure. Yeah. My take is that by the end, the sash is almost irrelevant. Whether or not the sash would have actually worked doesn't matter, because I think the whole message of the movie is, the values that people are expected to embody and act through, they often fail. They're kind of horseshit. But if you want to be a part of them, you don't really get to make that decision. Yeah.
That is actually a really good point, by the way. There was no guarantee that the sash would work.
No, of course.
And whether or not the sash worked, the real crux of this moment is Gawain going to fulfill his duty? Because the chivalry, the knightly values, honor and duty and follow through, all that, even if they're not real, you still have to do them. Because this world that Gawain is a part of, it doesn't work unless people accept these values. And even if he's in a situation where he knows this specific situation, my honor is accomplishing nothing, I'm just going to die, you kind of have to tell him, get the fuck over it, because that's how honor works. You accept that your duty might put you in a position where you just have to fucking die. That's what honor is. You don't get to pick and choose when you're honorable. If you do that, you're not honorable.
Exactly.
When Gawain is in Arthur's court, he wants to be a part of it. He is really into what it is. And this is him learning, this place only gets to exist if everyone believes. And believing doesn't mean believing when it's convenient or when it makes sense. You just have to believe. You just have to do your part. You just have to accept these values as values in and of themselves. Not values when they're convenient, not values when the consequences are good. Even if the consequences are what matter in a larger frame of mind, you as a human, you as an individual knight, you just have to accept these values. and I find it really fucking touching, and a lot of people have said this, when Gowan flinches, that is so fucking that is so fucking intense.
I love that that's actually in the original like Legend too. Like I looked at it just before and I was like, holy shit, that isn't Legend 2. That's so human. Like Legends are usually much colder than their adaptations. You know?
And
I was like,
people have given movie Gowan some credit because, like you said, in the original poem, Gowan did keep the magic sash on. So movie Gowan does something that the actual good Gowan still didn't manage to do.
Yeah.
But I love that Gowan flinches because even if you are actually doing it, even if you
come all this way,
yeah, even if you get to the state of mind where you are actually doing the impossible and you're doing an act of morality that is almost superhuman in how deep it is and how much you're sacrificing, even if you actually do it, you still can't do it the way you want to. You still can't hide the fact that a big part of you doesn't want to do it, even if you can make yourself do it.
The human part of you is still going to be, like, viscerally, it's hard to fucking self-discipline that out. Yeah, exactly.
That's such a sweet message. Like, even in our greatest moments, we still often flinch.
Yeah.
And that's just cool. And I think
it's cool, like, that the knight kind of berates him for it, because it's like, it doesn't really matter, because the knight the reason the knight doesn't flinch is like, he's cheating. He's not human. Like, he's not going to be scared, and not only because we know he fucking can regenerate his head back on, but even if he would die, like, it doesn't matter, because, like, you're not human. You don't have the same emotions as us, you know, like, you're not comparable. Like, I don't feel bad about not being the way that a literal monster is, you know, like.
Yeah, and no matter what Gowan does, he cannot be that. And part of the heroic thing of the knightly ideal is you can't. The whole point of the ideal is that humans can't do it. So they have to kind of be forced to do it by this alliance to an image of what they're supposed to be doing.
But that's what makes it valuable. Like, that humans, that some can do it sometimes is like what makes it incredible. It's like, even though you're just a human, you manage to do something as incredible as like in the movie, as the Green Knight could do, or like as something, I don't know, as someone chosen by God or something, you know, like it's, even though we're just human, we're doing something that kind of elevates us past like that animal base, you know, of just being scared and hungry and horny. It's like through our like disciplining and culture and learnedness, we can like rise to do like these feats. Yeah, that's cool and inspiring.
Well, you say that, but
well, you know. At the end of the day, Thupa, he still went all the way there and into the place and in front of him and gave up his weapon and kneeled down.
You know what? I'm gonna slap him down. But I want to hear what Thupa says. I'm not disagreeing with you. Come on, Thupa.
I just want to ask you, like, can't this be interpreted in the opposite way, where the culture is a veneer that we put on, and it's so, as you've mentioned so many times before, it's so erodible, it's so malleable, it's so what's the word for it? It's so
fragile,
in its way.
Temporal,
performative, I would say.
Performative. That's a good word for it. But in the end, even having gone through so much, grown so much as a person, and gone through this revelatory experience in the end, putting away the sash and doing something that his folk legend couldn't do, he still is an animal inside.
Yeah, he still falters flinches slightly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
What's wrong with that?
I don't think that's
I'm not saying anything's wrong with that.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, can that be interpreted in this way?
Yeah, that's kind of what I think that's kind of the point. It's like,
but the thing is, when us viewers see that, we know that none of us would be as virtuous as Gawain. So none of us feel like, oh, I can't believe he couldn't do it because I could. We're all just like, yeah, I understand. Like, I get it. I would have done the same. So I think
I feel like Gawain is an example.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I feel like
example.
When I look at Gowan, I feel like that's what I'm supposed to be working towards.
Plus, like, he faltered, but his audience was just that dude. I know he wants to appear like even to this, even alone in a chapel with this monster, even then he wants to appear chivalrous and stuff. At least I don't think the monster like holds it against the Green Knight holds it against him, because he's like, well, I always knew you would, like, I know what you guys are like, and I'm still impressed that you even came, you know. So it's just like,
well, in support of your argument, like the Green Knight is playing into the fantasy. He's not only called the Green Knight, he acts chivalrous in his own manner.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly, but I'm saying like in front of like if that had happened, imagine if that had happened like in front of like the rest more knights, like he'd come with some other knights, right? And he'd gotten down on his knees in front of the knight, and then he'd flinched. Like they would have thought lesser of him because they're like involved in this theatric thing, and they're like, oh, you're not supposed to break character even at this point, you know? But because he's like just with the Green Knight, he can be more vulnerable. So I think it's cool that he showed it. Yeah.
And that's kind of the point, is Gowan goes through this arena learning that, yeah, all this knight shit, it's you putting on a performance. It's you being a character. Then at the end, he has to learn, you still have to do it. Even if there is no audience, you just have to do it. If you want to be a knight, you just have to be a knight. Even if it's a character you're performing for an audience,
even if it kills
99,
you.
Yeah, even if it is pointless, even if being a knight just has you die alone and no one has a fucking clue what happened to you.
Exactly, I was just thinking that if he dies there, not only he doesn't even get the credit for like if people are favorable, they'll probably tell legends that he did it, but no one's gonna fucking go check if his corpse is there. Like
a really good detail. This is a very quick tangent. In the pub earlier in the movie before he leaves, some people come up and start telling his story, and they tell it wrong.
Yeah,
they say he killed the knight with a sword or with his own axe.
Yeah.
He used Excalibur.
Yeah, exactly. And they like, but I guess that they
it's
think
already
that
embellished too.
Exactly. I thought exactly that same thing. But the guy said axe, and I was bothered because I think just before that, because the scene before that, he mentions it to his girlfriend. He says, "You know, I held Excalibur, right?" Yeah.
We're not gonna get. Yeah. Oh, is that what you're calling it now? Tee. But we're not. That's
well, he's much like the protagonist from Konosuba.
That's a slight tangent, but the point is he learns in the moment that it has to be real. You make, to the extent that any of this knight shit is real, you make it real by doing it in situations where it accomplishes nothing. You just do it.
Yeah.
And
if it's real there, then it was real everywhere else, pretty much.
And on a slightly more practical level, even if nobody knows that Gowan did this, he will always know. And because Gowan never tests his ideals and his mettle as a knight in a real situation where it's all on the line, he locks it in that he can never do that. So then the whole rest of his life, he's playing a part that he can't really commit to it internally because he already failed the first time and he never made that right.
Exactly.
He puts himself in a position to fulfill a role, but he can't ever become the person who can actually do it properly, and so he just runs everything into the ground.
Right.
And it's like, what I love about it is it all comes down to consequences be damned, you just have to do it. Like, this is your dharma, this is your destiny, this is your arete, this is just what you do. You die to the Green Knight. That's your job. That's your role in the universe. You either accept that or don't. Yeah. And there's always the path of femininity and greenery and nature. You can get your hooker and just go shit in the woods somewhere with your hooker. You can do that. But if you want to be a part of your world, you just have a job.
Yeah. Pretty much. Okay.
And about the Green Knight being so weird at the end and being angry and starting to swipe and then stopping, then he is all playful at the end and touches his throat. I think part of what
I think him saying off with he said off with his head. That was an Alice in Wonderland reference.
Oh, was it what?
Dream. Alice in Wonderland, off with their heads. It was all a dream. I knew it. No,
could be. But I think part of what that was is when Gowan goes in, he gets in position and then he starts flinching. And then he eventually looks up and says, "Is this all there is?" Gowan is still thinking of himself as, I'm the hero of this story. And he's waiting for the moment when the Green Knight reveals that it was all just a game. It was all just a test. I was a trickster figure building you up into Sir Gawain the Legendary Knight. Go be Sir Gawain the Legendary Knight. You won. You did it, champ. Get out of here. He's waiting for that moment. And then the Green Knight keeps going until Gawain breaks and he accepts, oh fuck, I'm actually going to die. I was holding on to the hope that this would be a trick and I'd have an
You're
out.
so right.
I was going to pretend to let myself be killed and then be saved by circumstance at the last moment, which I subconsciously knew the whole time. But I still get to go out there and tell people I face death, even though I never really did. But the knight gives him that moment and breaks him where he actually accepts he's about to die. And that's what actually makes him.
Wow. That's such a specific thing, but I know exactly that makes a lot of sense to me. Holy shit! That's like Psycho. That's like when you're watching a movie and you have confidence. Like how you're saying he had confidence that he wouldn't die because he thinks it's a test because he has his uncle is a king and he has a mom who does magic. It's like when you're watching a movie and you feel confidence, like, oh, I know this character isn't going to die. They're the main character, Oh, I can fool myself for a bit into thinking, oh yeah, they're in some danger. But then when she gets in the shower in Psycho and she gets fucking stabbed to pieces, and then you're like, is this it? Is this all there is?
Yeah.
Like, isn't
what
there
else should
something
there
else?
be?
Yeah, exactly. Isn't someone going to save her, or it was all a dream or something? You're like, no, sorry, you misbelieved, you were wrong. Bye.
And
Well, I mean, in
makes
real life, that happens all the fucking time.
Exactly.
I mean,
but you're not waiting. But
great. I assume you have to deal with this at your workplace all the time.
just like
What all the time?
In the managerial position, especially.
Oh, I was
when
like,
people, when
I'm a
people come to
construction
you
worker.
and
What?
fucking-
I don't kill women. What?
no,
Of course you
the
do.
lady does protest
else
too
that-
much. Yeah.
Okay,
else
what did you
makes
say,
this?
Thupa?
Cement shoes
What
for
were you
Mafia.
asking
just-
again? Thupa, ask it again.
Who else makes cement shoes for Mafia?
No, what were you asking that I deal with all the time?
Well,
You're just kidding.
well, the idea that people who are full of shit come confident that they can go through with the thing, and then they actually have to do the thing, and they're like, "Oh shit!" and they
thought
try
it was
to
a
run
joke.
away from it.
Yeah, no, it's like in Bacano, Lad Russo. He only kills people they look like they're really confident that he won't kill them. Like when they have a smug look on their face. He does. Like
that's funny.
I guess he doesn't end up killing him because the kid who he thinks he's killed is actually immortal. So he was right that he won't die. But the look he has on his face, like when he's pointing a shotgun at him.
Spoilers from Bacano.
Oh, you don't give a shit.
Oh,
You hate
no.
Bacano. He's pointing a shotgun at this kid's face, and he's just got this like grin on his face, and that really pisses me off when they think I won't kill them. That's what makes me kill them. And like just like how me watching a movie, I think I'm confident knowing that a character won't die, or Gawain thinking that he's a main character because he's an important would-be knight thinks that he won't end up dying. That's
This is the
exactly
time we'll
the
bring
best
up
time
Spike
to kill them.
Spiegel.
Well, Spike
Who dies?
Spike was okay with it.
Hold that thought. I literally have in my notes bringing up Spike. That's
Oh
not
my
a joke.
Jesus Christ.
Thupa, no, I came
Bring up
so
Spike
close to
notes.
making the Green Knight a double feature with Bebop. You don't even know.
What?
I
the
have
fuck?
no idea.
I was literally going to do it,
That's way more
and then I
tenuous.
backed out. No, hold on. But I need to get back to
I don't
my
want
things
this
a
to go
little
on
bit.
for
I need-
another hour.
Okay.
We haven't
I need
even
to-
gotten to 7 Seals.
Oh, come on. I'm hungry.
But let me get eat, motherfucker.
I have stuff to do. Let's finish this in like a few minutes.
No, let me get back to my Thane a bit, and Gawain's transformation, part of that is he realizes,
That's a good move.
that's what we're doing as knights. Like, we fight against nature. We're pushing forward with what we protect and what we do with each other and how we cooperate as a team. It's a battle against nature. And it finally clicks with him, oh, fuck. That's the whole point. Nature doesn't give a shit. Like, if it kills you, it just kills you. There's no narrative redemption. There's no nothing. You just fucking die. It's not a character in your play. It's doing its own thing. And part of what really sells Gawain's final moments to me, or maybe final moments, part of what really sells it is when the knight is going up, he's flinching really bad. He's acting like a child. He's crying. He's asking for reasons. At the end, when he goes through the bad future and he decides to take the sash off, he chooses to put himself in a position of true vulnerability. He accepts that he's actually going to die. It's not a trick. He's actually going to die. You can see the way he sits. Like, he sits, he's still shaking, he's still scared, but he sits down, like, with a greater weight. Like, he's not poised or moving like he's about to jump up and run or get up again. He sits as if he's actually accepting it.
Yeah.
Like, it really sets in, this is actually the end, and I chose this. And I think that's the moment that really makes it.
Much like in the very beginning of the movie, he bears the Green Knight's pose.
He bears the Green Knight's pose? Or he takes the same pose?
Yeah, like at the start, when the one deals.
Oh, that actually works. And when the Green Knight...
Yeah, that's how you cut someone's head off.
And when the Green Knight crouches down and goes and, has the little exchange with him, I forget what he says right before off with your head. But when the Green Knight crouches down and has the little pep talk with him,
yeah, he did say something.
He strokes his face, and I think he's like, "You've done well" or something. I think he says "Good job."
Calls him a knight. That's it. He calls him a knight. The Green Knight kneels,
brave knight. He says, "My brave
holds
knight."
His head, and says, "Well done, brave knight." And then he brushes his thing and goes, "Off with your head."
Yeah,
that's the Green Knight saying. That's the Green Knight saying, "Okay, you just had the moment of where you gave up on all the tricks and you were actually letting me kill you. And you actually believed you were doing it in the moment. You are actually a knight now because you understand that it's not just a game and it's not just the titles. Actually putting it all on the line when it's time to is what really makes you a knight. You've achieved it. It's not Arthur. You fucking going back and having Arthur put his sword on your shoulders, that is not what makes you a knight. What makes you a knight really is what you just did with me." And then when he brushes his neck and says, "Off with your head," maybe he killed him. Maybe he killed him.
He surely killed him.
No, I don't know about that. I'm leaning towards he didn't. Because a way of interpreting that is, I brushed your neck, I gave the wound back to you. Like,
or
that's
he's taking a weight off his shoulders.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
But the knight's rule is it's 1 for 1, hit for hit.
Yeah.
So
he didn't say how hard.
The knight strikes his neck. That means they're even. If the knight hits him again, then Gawain would have to come back in a year from the dead and hit him again. Like, the knight doesn't break his promises. So I think when he brushes over the neck and says, "Now off with your head," I think the people who think that's a playful joke is right, where the brushing is the hit. Like, the knight is not allowed to touch you unless he's fucking playing the game with you. So that counts. Gawain was right at the end. Like, Gawain's belief that this was a growing up mystical game, it was right, but for it to work, the knight had to actually break him.
Yeah.
And now that he accepted it's not a game, it is a game again. Get out of here, kid. Off with your head. I lean towards that's what happened.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me.
That it could be the other way is an important part of that working, but I do think Gawain probably lived.
Yeah, obviously, like, it being ambiguous is the idea, or else they would have just shown one of the two endings. Like, they want them to all make sense together.
Well, everyone has their own interpretation.
Show me the director's cut.
Yeah.
The film footage of him dying.
An extra 20 minutes of them having a bath together.
No. There's 2 extra 20 minutes of them having an epic battle where he rolls under the axe, grabs the sword, and then they start battling. And
Can you imagine how bad that was?
Green Knight actually was talking in a different language, and there had to be a translator that came to there.
It was a misunderstanding
from the border, because you see, as they were standing in front of the gates, and the two armies were facing each other.
He actually meant the head of his penis. He wanted him to disrobe.
I will say, people have pointed out the after credits scene where there's a little girl playing with the crown.
What? There's an after credits scene?
There's an after credits scene where there's a little girl playing with King Gawain's crown in the bad future. People have pointed out the kid that Gawain kept was a boy, the one who dies.
No, but it was a girl after he died. Yeah.
Okay, But the first,
remember when he has a second baby, like from his new wife, and then she's sitting on her lap when the doors get kicked down.
Yeah, but
this is the masturbation baby.
No, but that kid is a baby. The kid in the after credits scene, which I'll remind you have not seen, is like 4 or 5.
No, she's not a baby. The girl, she's a baby for one scene, but then when it's the last scene, I'm just saying, when it's the last scene of that like fast forward imagination, whatever, she's also 4 or 5 in a white dress with like a little crown, and she's sitting on her mother's lap, and then her mother takes her out of shot because the doors are about to get kicked down, and the guy takes his guts out. Yeah.
Maybe I'm misremembering that part, but the operative concept is that little girl is one of Gowan's kids. So you could make the case that after credit scene was implying that Gowan does live. Because if the knight cut his head off, that kid wouldn't ever be born. Unless it's literally just a random child who has nothing to do with the story.
But yeah, that doesn't conflict with what I was saying.
I want to pose you something else.
He could have just imagined the 2 kids that he would have exactly accurately to how they would be.
Isn't it so funny that you're open to the idea of the happy ending, but Thupa, a.k.a. the Squire, is trying to default back to a fatalistic ending that is safer and easier to believe, where he doesn't have the anxiety of maybe, but he has the security of responding to a set, unpleasant reality.
I just don't want to die of the plague like you guys.
Isn't it funny? I just want to note something that you know what is the most iconic the most like iconography iconographic scene.
Shot.
Anyway,
in the film,
the idea that when the king falls, his crown goes on the ground next to his head.
I mean,
right, and the shot of the crown being on the ground.
Well, that's how the Green Knight's head like rolled on the floor. That was like the most iconic one in my head. Was like that big overhead shot with the pentagram on the floor.
Think like I don't know. I'm a nerd. Think of the Warcraft 3, right? When the Arthas kills his father, and we don't see his head on the ground. We don't see him bleeding on the ground, fucking bisected, fucking bifurcated, or eviscerated, whatever. We see the crown fall on the ground. And it's this shot, right? Where the kid is playing with a crown, forgotten, laying on the ground.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
No longer something to be fucking a symbol of regality, now just a simple toy.
Maybe. Or maybe it's Gowan's bedroom and he just left it on the ground for a moment. You know, maybe
his girlfriend was already pregnant. I mean, they did fuck loads of times and don't have condoms, so maybe his girlfriend was pregnant.
They fucked before he went on this journey.
Yeah, exactly. But she would be the royal heir, like if after Arthur dies. Yeah, just like her grandpa.
Here's the thing, though. So, in the end, do we agree that he has some finality to his life?
Yeah, I think so. I think he resolved the conflict. I don't think he should be ashamed of how he went.
He does the honorable thing. He does some. He puts him. He exposes himself. Oh fuck. He makes himself.
Even if he flinched and cried as the knight killed him, he still would have done the honorable thing, in my mind.
Yeah, he left himself vulnerable for the knight. He played by the rules. He finished the game that he started. And that is the manly growing up thing he had to do. He finished the game.
Whether he survived or not, he matured as a man.
Yeah.
Spiritually grew up.
Remember that this was all his choice.
Came to accept a certain meaning in his life, right?
Yeah. And he stepped forward like no one else
Antonius
was like...
Block?
Block?
He just dies. He does his best, and then he just
dies.
He didn't have a specific. He didn't have a specific quest. Yeah, he didn't have anything like specific to like. He didn't have.
He prays. He didn't have a quest.
He dies. He didn't. That's all he could do.
Gawain knew what he had to do. He has to go to this place at this time to find this dude.
He has
when Block
Antonius
comes
Block
back,
has several
he has
quests.
he has to vaguely find something to make his life worthwhile. That's just everyone's quest in all of their lives.
Well, firstly,
No,
he's returning home
Gawain
to his
has
wife that he loves.
it doesn't matter. Gawain has an instruction manual on how to become chivalric and noble.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
this,
Block
this,
doesn't.
this person is already chivalric, but he has lost
No, he's
meaning
not, because
and
he was in the
purpose to
fucking
his
crusade.
life.
No, he was in the Crusades. Like, you can't. After what he's seen, he can't be sure that what he did was right. Like, he was going into
Exactly.
He was an invading force into other people's fucking living rooms and fucking chopping everyone's heads off because of.
Were they really
of,
people?
Yes, they were. They were Muslims.
They were.
What are you
Then
saying?
why didn't they accept Christ, Michi?
Because they had a different point of view, and they didn't. They invaded beforehand too. I'm not saying they're any better, but likewise,
Here's the thing, though.
I don't think crusades are seen as, especially nowadays, are not seen as specific, like very noble causes. They're seen as fucking
Exactly.
blood wars.
It's something you've argued before that culture is malleable, right?
Sure.
And in his life, in his lifetime, he would have been perceived as an incredibly noble person.
Maybe, but he himself
pay him.
wasn't. He doesn't
People
look.
pay
maybe
him
he was.
immense respect.
He doesn't look very happy about it.
Is doing what was right and what seemed right at the time, with no question of whether or not the result was good, is that noble? Because that's noble with Gawain. A lot of us today would say Gawain should have said fuck it, saved his own ass, and ran out of there. Chivalry's for fucking dummies anyway. I mean,
He
You
was
kinda-
a knight. He was given a quest to go on a holy crusade and kill people. And what? Did he not
Sure.
follow through?
He did, but I mean, if he died there, it might have been better for him, honestly, and more noble.
I mean, not to make it too contemporary.
No part
Th-
of the crusade, no part of the quest is surviving and coming back home. That's irrelevant. You can die or not. The point is to
I mean,
kill
you're
other
supposed
people.
to try to, but if you die, that's
Well,
just how it is.
you're
is-
just supposed to survive so that you have a chance to kill more people. Because if you died in the first
quest-
encounter, once you're fucking done killing everything, it's like okay.
Well, it's more
I guess
of a
you're never done killing everything.
It's more of a meta narrative of the quest. The quest itself would be to bring God to the X place, right?
Sure, yeah, to reclaim Jerusalem in God's name and not in Allah's name or any other name.
Brings God's justice, God's wrath, or God's mercy, whichever the purpose would be of the crusade.
Yeah.
And he does that.
Well, then
And
why is he so
and he's
fucking upset?
well-respected.
Why is he so sad
And-
about it?
And that's wherein his next part of the quest lies, to find God for himself. He brought it so much. He committed so much of his life to it, and he believes in it, and he looks for it, but the God remains silent.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we're disagreeing even at any point. Yeah.
I'm not trying to disagree.
I'll interject by saying that Block's quest or Block's arc, to the extent it is one, it's just, can he reclaim his faith? Like, that's really it. Block is indecisive. His only choices are believe again and have faith, or renounce his faith. And what he does basically up to the end is just be wishy-washy about it. Or he tries the whole time. He just can't quite get it to take hold. That's really it.
Interesting thing is that like both quests, like they're impossible to approve in the eyes of another person. Like, you know what I mean? Like most quests, like if you say, like, oh, I'm going to go there and slay the dragon, and then you slay the dragon, then people go, oh, I now see that he has slain the dragon. Cool. I will say, yay, shower praise upon him. But like, okay, if Block finds his faith or whatever, like no one can be sure except for him. Like he can say he's found it, or he can say he's not found it, whatever. Like other people are like unaffected. And the same way, like if Gawain went there and the knight doesn't kill him and he comes back home, no one can be sure that he is not just lying. And if the knight does kill him, no one knows what the fuck happened because he never
He
came
even
back.
made there.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
But
So like all these
it's,
stuff, like none of this can be checked out by someone else. Like no one can confirm that any of these quests were fulfilled. They're unconfirmable.
Well, that's kind of the idea. It's like
Unless you brought the knight's head back and said, "Oh, I killed him instead. I killed the Green Knight instead." Lol.
Gowan's arc is basically a debate on, do these socially held values have an exterior objective reality?
Yeah. Do they
Or
hold
at the
true
very least,
outside of this
or at the very
contained
least,
environment? Yeah.
are you supposed to act as if they do? An interpretation of Gowan is he was in a situation where no one would have known but him, and he acted as if it was real.
Yeah, we
and
know.
on some level, that made it real.
Yeah.
Does that make them real?
Well, to us it does because we're special. We have an extra position of like we're viewers. We're watching it, but none of the people in the story are. You know, we know
We
it.
have a godlike view.
Yeah, in a
of
fourth, like exactly in a fourth wall kind of way. Like we
Omnipotence.
to us it makes sense and we know, but yeah, like if this was like a real thing that happened, then it wouldn't have made a difference to anyone.
Maybe God doesn't talk to us because it's a movie for him.
Yeah, exactly. He's watching it. And he's like, oh, what the fuck? Yeah,
Yeah.
dumbass.
right now, he's fucking choking on his popcorn, I bet.
Look to camera. Look at the sky, everyone. Yeah, see. Yeah.
I think he finds you very amusing, Thupa. I will say that.
Yeah, you're his little jester character.
I mean, I joke. I think one of the explanations...
I am so shocked you found so much theatrical trivia almost in fucking Green Knight, but not in a literal theater staged performative movie.
I think
That is pretty much about everything. It tries to be as encompassing as later Odyssey would be.
Yeah.
Wait, what? You're shocked we found so much to talk about, or?
No. He means we're finding more stuff in the Green Knight apparently than in Seventh Seal.
Oh,
One Seventh Seal directly deals with the issue.
well, that's
But that's
almost
exactly
the point,
it. It's
Thupa.
because it directly deals with it. We don't have much more to say. Yeah.
The characters just kind of embody different philosophies of life and different reactions to, the silence of God. It's so direct that there's really nothing to do beyond... We would be having a philosophy debate.
Whatever Thupa had to say about Seventh Seal, John's already said.
Yeah. Good point.
Like we would just be the three characters in the movie having the conversations that they already had in the movie.
And Thupa, if I invited you to an actual explicit philosophy debate, you would fucking run, and you fucking know it.
I thought you were going to say, if I invited you to Sweden during the plague, you would fucking cut some guy's face.
How dare you? No, not you would run in fear. You would say, that's fucking gay, and you would go play Ark
I don't want to do that. Yeah, exactly.
How dare you swing that glove at me?
Am I wrong?
No.
Yeah. And fucking...
Actually,
No, I was going to... And go in, like, Green Knight did the opposite, where it's like, oh, we're going to watch this merry old Arthurian movie. Let's, it's going to be really pretty. Let's look at all the nice medieval CGI things, and then you're not thinking of it as, like, a play and, like, a philosophy thing, and then you're like, oh, shit, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You asked
Thupa,
a really good question, would I?
Thupa, you are always making fun of me, being like, oh, you're so self-serious. And then I'm like, okay, we're going to debate the philosophy of religion and fear of death. And you're just going to be like, oh, sure, I'll show up. You would show up to make fun of me.
Yeah. You would be in the...
I would absolutely make fun of you. Make no doubt of that.
It would be me and Green at separate podiums, and you'd be in the audience on the top thing, jeering from up there, like throwing shit. Yeah,
Like the
it's
old
like the
men in the
visual
Muppets.
metaphor for the podcast. Yeah,
Mate, I do that everywhere.
I know.
Sure. Well, whatever.
You send me
That's
screenshots.
I did that at
point
work.
proven.
Thupa, you have like 20 clips of you trolling different streamers who all have a fucking unhealthy codependent relationship with you, where they need you to make more, content, but you make their lives hell.
I wanted to. Okay,
20 was 20 different. Each
I wanted
one.
to ask just a tiny thing. Do you guys kind of feel like showing what would happen if he went back? Was that kind of like an unnecessary kind of...
What do you mean?
In the Green Knight, when they show that whole scene of him showing, like, imagining or having a vision or whatever of what will happen if he goes back with the sash and the kingdom gets ruined and shit, is showing that kind of like I don't know. I kind of feel like it might cheapen it a bit. Like, put it this way. I don't think the Seventh Seal would ever... I mean, I don't have to think. I know it wouldn't. But yeah, if it was like... If Ingmar Bergman directed The Green Knight, I don't think he would give us any kind of, like, seemingly closure like that, you know? Like, isn't it kind of silly, like, it telling us, like, it letting us know what... No, definitely, if you went back, you definitely know shit would be bad, okay? So you don't have to worry. Like, I feel like if they hadn't shown us, I would still feel like, oh, I feel like he should have gone back. Like, I could feel... maybe if he'd gone back, everything would have gone well. I don't know. Now I'm for certain I know that it wouldn't have gone well. That's kind of like... It's kind of unfair that it's cutting one of my avenues of interpretation off from me. By telling me that fanficky way that this is what would have happened. It's like those people who do like...
Here's the thing.
Why didn't the wizard stop Hitler? It's like, and J.K. Rowling writes that shitty side story about, oh, actually, if they'd stopped it, then it would have been even worse because the war would have been prolonged and there would have been someone else who would have taken his place and, you know.
Here's the thing.
Discuss.
He once again operates in a lot of moral grace there. Like... He doesn't explicitly tell you that the ending is bad. It's just my interpretation.
Oh yeah, to be fair, I don't know that that's what would have happened. That's what he thinks would have happened. Maybe he's just a pessimist.
No,
yeah,
I do not
right.
know.
Okay,
I'm just certain about things that I think.
No, but I'm saying maybe
about that.
Maybe I should interpret that as just Gawain. Maybe that's how he psychs himself up for it. He imagines that if he keeps that on, shit will be bad. So
if he can do that, he should just imagine that he actually did it, and then go home and believe that he.
I'm just saying.
He bamboozled the Green Knight, even though he just walked by it.
No. I'm not saying that he changes reality. I'm just saying at that second he knows he has to get his thing chopped off. So how does he convince himself best? He convinces himself.
Thoughts.
He imagines to himself like, well, I'm sure if I go back.
Answer your fucking question, Michi?
Wait, I'm just saying it's like grapes are always sour, right? You know, like the ones at the bottom are always sour. He's imagining that.
That is not the same.
It is. No.
The grapes at the bottom are always sour. No, sour grapes is when you can't have something, so you pretend that you don't want it.
But in the
I know.
But in the fable, the fucking fox thinks to itself, the ones at the bottom are usually shitty and sour.
Oh, okay.
That's why I won't pick them, you prick.
Fine.
Maybe if you'd read it like you didn't read The Green Knight or anything else, apparently.
Actually, that makes a lot... Actually, that makes a lot of sense, Michi. You see... Grit is such a bottom, and that's why he's so sour.
Your bottom is always sour.
No, he's just the bottom himself.
I'm just saying, it makes a bit of sense trying to convince yourself last second that what you want would have turned out badly anyway, so don't try and...
I do love me getting exposed as a pseudo-intellectual by both of you, which, Michi, I would have maybe thought with you because you like medieval stuff. I had no fucking idea Thupa had read the chivalric poem of the Green Knight.
And you haven't read Aesop's Fables, apparently.
Mate, I read all the time. You're aware of that, right?
Yeah, you usually read like fantasy and science fiction. I don't like pre-modern literature is not something I thought you were a big into.
Well, it's only a hop, skip, and a jump from fantasy to mythology. That's what it's all based on. At some
point, I've just decided that I'm really comfortable being a nerd, so I'm gonna read nerd shit.
Fantasy,
right?
Yeah, fantasy are just intricate legends or fairy tales. But
it's not so far removed.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, I have two higher educations.
That's like being like, oh, if you read Lord of the Rings, I didn't think you read King Arthur. Like, they're
7
the same
years
thing.
of Russian literature, which involves foreign literature as well.
Wow. Okay.
7
years
in school.
I mean, I knew Thupa was very educated. You know, definitely compared to me. I don't know. You just had never brought up anything like that as something you were into, so I just didn't know.
You never asked.
As opposed to science fiction and fantasy, where you send me audiobooks pretty frequently to read.
Well, it's just kind of what I want at the moment.
That's because that's what he
get
thinks
into
you'll
Hyperion,
like.
By the way, God damn it! I swear to God, you will love that book.
Me?
I want to. I really do. But right now, I'm through Quantum Thief.
And it has a really good audiobook, too, if you want to go that route.
Who are you talking to?
Thupa. Have you read Hyperion?
Okay. Me? No.
Have you?
No.
You should.
It's a good book.
Quantum Thief.
Oh, speaking of all this podcast, the whole time I've been thinking, Green, you really need to play Planescape Torment, and then we should make a podcast about it.
would you actually
Why
show
Planescape
up?
Torment?
I would. Because it's like about
Okay.
this journey of this dude like encountering his own death too. Even though
We can
he's
do
an
a double
immortal dude.
feature. We can do a double
What
feature
about
of that
Nier
with
Automata?
Seventh Seal as well.
Nier Automata
Okay.
isn't nearly as good a game as Planescape Torment.
Oh, fuck you.
It's a good game. I like it. It's like an 8 out of 10. But like Planescape Torment is literally one of the best games ever.
I don't know.
And you don't you don't have the problem of getting like, oh shit, I can't fucking dodge this enemy. Oh, I can't see the philosophy because I'm too busy fucking
I can't
doing
see
like
the
a side
philosophy
quest.
because of the
I can't
bullets.
see all this philosophy because I'm doing a side quest where I have
Side quests are the shit. They're the most existential
I'm
part
not
of
saying
the
I don't
story.
like it. I'm saying it's not like as deep a game as Planescape Torment, which is fucking basically like a visual novel.
What do you mean?
Thupa, do you
The
give? Do
meta
you really?
narrative of Nier Automata's beginning is fucking incredible.
Yeah, it's
Thupa,
not,
do
I,
you
don't, I didn't
actually-
think it was all that, honestly. And naming robots after philosophical figures is like fucking baby shit. It's like, this guy's called Descartes.
Wait. Oh, okay. I was like, Michi, are you not
about
able to name one?
Dante's
How subtle,
divine
guys.
comedy on your ass.
How subtle, Nier Automata, made by the guys who gave you fucking Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. Yeah, these guys are going to be real fucking deep. Look,
Nier
Nier is
actually
cool.
is
I like
deep.
Nier.
Nier
I
is
think
good.
it's really cool.
They developed the mechanics.
It's
the person
cool,
who
but it's
wrote
not-
and
I know,
directed
it's
it
fucking Yoko,
is
whatever
responsible
the fuck.
for
Yeah, you-
Drakengard.
Yeah, Drakengard. Exactly. Oh, I showed up in modern time at the end of the game. Ooh. Yeah, he's a funny dude and he's clever and cool. Whatever. Planescape Torment is upheld,
He's fucking insane.
has stood the test of time as like fucking one of the best games ever for a reason. I'm just saying.
It's really.
And I love Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, by the way.
know,
and
Michi-
Nier.
Michi-
I know that game for verbatim.
Yeah.
Michi, I
Rules
will
of
just
nature.
say, we're doing the podcast thing much more consistently these days. I'm
Dude, I
taking it
wanna
more
do
seriously
Planescape
again.
Torment. Yeah.
If you want to do more of them, if you
Sure.
commit to doing them, that would be a good way to get me to do it. You've been kind of,
Okay, fine.
AWOL for 7 weeks now.
Look, I'm sorry, okay?
As far as I'm aware, for a year at least.
Yeah, I know. Okay, it takes time to make comics and shit. But anyways,
I talk to both of you much more than either you talk to each other, I think.
true.
So
It's to preserve the like we have like a kind of distant love kind of like relationship. If I just kept texting him all the time, then he wouldn't have the same thing.
well, it's
I
it's
just
like
don't text anybody. I wait for texts to come to me.
Exactly.
it's kind of like Thupa's my wife, and you're like the girl I cheated on him with for like years. So it's like you have a really intimate connection.
It's like you're
It's
a
just,
knight
you don't know what
and
to do
he's
with
your
it.
squire, and then you're
Yeah.
cheating on your squire with a with a plague. Anyway, how soon could you do that then?
do what?
The podcast. How soon could you finish Planescape Torment and do a podcast? And
I'll
also, if you
finish
want,
it
I'll
in a
do.
day if you'll actually record me
Well,
with me, you little shit.
You won't
Okay.
finish it in a day.
You won't finish it today. It's quite long.
Thupa, did you play
One,
it too?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Okay.
like way back.
But yeah, okay, that makes sense. But also, I can also do Nier Automata. I beat that game. I did all the endings. So yeah.
We could do both of them. We could argue about which is better.
Okay. Case
I've
closed.
been like kind of desperate and sad for a long time now because I feel like it's so hard to like get people to like do things with me anymore. So Michi, if you actually were
I will
semi committed
do
and
it.
consistent of like once or twice a month I'll record with Green, like it would be very easy to get me to do things that you wanted me to do. I'm just gonna say that.
Green, if you want to at this point, now that I've gotten stuff sorted out and I have every Monday off, I could do a podcast with you every Monday if you want.
Oh my god, we should do that.
Like,
Thupa,
let's do that
will you
then.
do it? Well, I mean,
Mondays?
you'd have to get up relatively early because, like, if I get up at 4 a.m, that's getting up at what is that 11 for you, which is asking a lot. I know.
For me or for Thupa? Which,
For you, for Thupa,
I
that's getting
haven't
up at, like,
slept yet.
I get
For
up
Thupa,
at
that's
6
getting up at
a.m.
like 4 p.m., which is very hard for him.
I get up at 6 a.m. every morning, except for today because I drank the night before, so I got up at 9, which is still pretty early.
I also am trying to like reach out to and incorporate other people as well. that's
Dude, whatever.
that's been-
I wouldn't mind if we don't have anyone else. I don't mind doing one every week, just the two of us, or just the three of us. It's
Okay.
the same to me.
Okay, that's
I'm
cool.
telling you, dude. On my
cool.
honor as a Green Knight.
That's
Can we?
I've got stuff sorted out now.
Oh man, I could have
Alright.
called us the Green Knights. God damn it!
Fuck!
No.
You can still call it that as a subtitle.
The Green Knights and Square.
Yeah. Oh, I should
where was
probably.
his squire? Well, he was not a knight.
Does anyone have any closing thoughts or any last things they want to say about
Let's
the actual
do
game?
what about Metal Gear Rising? Now that's a game
Oh,
worth
yeah, that'd
talking
be
about.
sick.
I've never played it, Thupa. I can't. It will take me forever
What
to
is it?
finish
Okay,
Nier.
I swear this. I swear. Every time I say
I
something
don't play
is
many
cool,
games.
Every time
Metal Gear Rising
every
is
time I say
fucking
something is
fantastic.
cool or better than something else first, Thupa like hates it after. like he starts hating Bakano and Dura just because I was like, oh yeah, Bakano's even better. You should watch that instead. And when I say Planescape Torment is better than Nier Automata, he's like, fuck that. Metal Gear Rising Revengeance is more worthwhile than fucking
It's almost like you're
Planescape
figuring out
Torment.
how
Metal
this
Gear
works.
Rising is better than both of
It
those.
is not.
Then both of what? Then Nier and Planescape?
Yeah, he's saying that. He's actually saying that. The game where Raiden puts on a Mexican
Because
hat.
it's so much more memorable.
I-
That doesn't make something good. If I punched you in the face, you'd fucking remember that, you pice of shit. Oh, it's
You-
more
you-
memorable. Oh,
What,
it's
you're
much more
going to tell me
memorable.
that the phrase nanomachine son wasn't fucking good?
Dude, I remember every line from fucking Planescape almost, like, because it was so, like, engrossing. as
What,
just-
you're going to tell me that a boss knocking you down and then starting to talk to you about fucking Among Us isn't memorable and good?
Whatever.
Okay.
Green,
Memes!
don't listen to this
The
maniac.
DNA
I
of the
swear to
soul.
you. As everything we value as friends,
Exquisite.
I know that if you play Planescape Torment, you're gonna really like it. Much more than Bebop or any of that fucking stuff.
I
that
like.
I just said,
I like
I
what
just said
I've
you
played.
should watch because I know you should. But
I
you
just
should,
I'm only like 5 hours in,
what?
and
Into
it's a
what?
long game or something.
Into
Into
what?
Nier.
Into Nier.
Into Planescape.
You are into Planescape?
No, I'm like 20 hours in the Nier. I'm like not even halfway through it.
Okay, but you
you
have started. But
Planescape? How
you
did
started
heard about the
Planescape?
game?
Michi told me
no,
about
I
it.
told
like a
him
few months
before
ago.
when I was playing it. I
Oh.
played it like a year ago.
Yeah. No, I can tell it's good. It's just it's one of those games you never feel like playing it. You know.
Yeah, I know it's hard. Like I know the systems are old and stuff, and it's like kind of counterintuitive some stuff. But
Well,
please,
it's not a casual game too. It's like it
No,
has
I know.
to click in your head.
sure. I know it's not something I return to. I played it a
It's
year
like,
ago.
it's like
and I haven't
Nier.
played it since.
A problem
Yeah.
with Nier is that
not like
the
fucking
music is such
FTL.
Well, I'll play FTL all the time.
Exactly,
because it's
that's
so
what
easy
I
to
mean.
play.
Games are on a
You can-
scale
you
of
can-
like
you can
I've been
even
playing
leave
Halo.
Guys
FTL
of
running.
Courage.
You can even play FTL while you're doing. You can leave it running, and there's like an option to just let it run sometimes while you're doing other shit. Like
No,
in certain
yeah.
situations, you can just flip on a drone and just leave for
I
a
know.
while.
I'll play.
Well,
I'll
great.
play. I can play Elden Ring or fucking Hades like all day, sure. And
Michi.
I played Planescape all the way through like a year ago, and I don't plan on playing it like right now. But
Michi, why don't you back that up with a source?
what with what source?
My source is that I made it
made
the
it
fuck
the
up.
fuck
Learn your
up.
memes.
No, it's like you can have AVGN on the background all the time, and I'm not gonna watch the Green Knight every day. But I'm not saying AVGN is better than the Green Knight just because
Well, you know
can,
what I have to
just
say
because it's
about
more
that, Michi, yeah?
replayable.
You know? Dies of cringe.
Ass
Okay.
is what I've got to say. Fucking ass.
yeah, but
What
the
were they thinking?
I was gonna say the problem with Nier is the music and the set pieces are such a big part of Nier that it's not really a game you can play while you're like playing a podcast or something in the background.
Yeah, you
and
can
that's
listen
a problem
to a
with
podcast
me.
while you
I-
play Planescape.
if a game really demands like audio attention, it's much harder for me to play it because I always do other shit.
Yeah, see, Thupa, he can't play Metal Gear Rising Resistance, or else he'll miss all the fucking sick-ass nu metal songs every time he's fucking listening to a podcast.
That fucking
It's gonna
that,
pull him out.
the blood that bloodstained sand song
I could
from
feel
Metal
my
Gear.
blood
Oh, yeah.
I love that song so
What
much.
about Stains
I
of
listened to
Time,
that-
man? Fucking Stains of Time. Ooh.
I don't know.
That's the one against Monsoon. That's, oh my god. So
I don't
Oh
know who
my
this
god,
person
Stays
is.
of Time.
Monsoon is a guy who splits into 4 different pieces, and he's made
Four?
of loads of. No, you're right. His chest is 4 parts. He's like made out of fucking pepperoni slices. And
when you try to cut him, he just magnetizes himself out of the way.
I will say
fantastic.
this. I will say this. You know what I might start doing? What? I might start doing some of the podcasts as almost like live streams.
Okay.
Just because I spend so much time editing shit on the edited podcasts. If I was doing like multiple long ones per week, just this is going to take me like at least 3 days to do probably.
Yeah.
Like just in afternoons after work.
I was just gonna say,
if I have a semi-consistent thing, I might do more casual ones where we're just like talking and shit.
Aside from how much you will like Planescape Torment or 1 or whatever,
of course.
the reason I'm recommending it is because I think it's really good podcast fodder. Okay, because it has like lots of shit to talk about. Lots of characters, lots of scenarios, lots of story. Whereas if you're podcast on Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, you're going to talk about all the cringe funny moments. And then what are you going to discuss? Oh, do you guys also press the same buttons to slice the enemies in half? Yeah, I do. How did you?
It's only the cold wind I
You can't even talk about did you do this?
It's me that I spy as I stand up and fight. The only thing I know for real, there will be blood! Shed!
Let Michi talk! Okay. Go,
I'm just saying it's really good for a podcast, okay? Just like how you didn't love Bebop that much, but you had lots of stuff to say about it. Planescape, you might even not love the game itself that much, but there's a lot of fucking shit to talk about. People have been discussing Planescape since this came out. Like that, it's one of the most talked about games for that reason. You know,
I don't know if Thupa knows he's muted.
I'm just saying you could say people could be like, oh, Mario Brothers is a great game, sure, but you're not gonna get 2 hours of podcast out of it, are you?
No. Well, FTL is the best game of all time. I have nothing to say about it.
I was quoting more music at you.
Shut up!
I know.
The fuck up.
That's why you were muted.
This must be how Green felt the start of the podcast.
Yeah, he was losing his identity, wondering where he's gone insane.
Stop
to find his truth in front of him, he must climb the mountain range.
That being said,
you're reading it?
Yes,
probably is. No one knows what the fuck people are saying in most of the songs at the start.
I know them verbatim.
Sure, whatever. Anyways, that said, you could talk a lot about Senator Armstrong. That would be a good subject for the podcast.
Oh my god, yeah.
Everything I've seen of him, he just seems like a totally reasonable person.
He is. He really
Can you
is.
back that up with a source
That's the
grid?
American dream, Jack.
Yeah, making the mother of all up. I mean, when he's yelling fuck the media, fuck those chicken shit politicians.
Politicians back in Washington. Yeah,
that's just right.
Politician and chicken shit media.
You should play fuck Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. Me and Thupa need to make you play Metal Gear Solid 2 just so you get to all the fucking end fuckery with all the meta shit and the politicians and the philosophers.
Psychomantis?
No, that's Metal Gear Solid 1. Play 2.
Well, no, 2 is Sons of Liberty, right? The one with Raiden replaces
Yeah, exactly.
The old Metal Gear games, I know people say they're fucking incredible. Old video games are so hard for me, and the problem with the Metal Gear games is also you need 2 isn't old, wasn't it on PS2?
PS2. Yeah, PS2 is not
10 years ago.
Oh, come on. You're older than me and you think PS2 is old? I can play PS2 games, why can't you?
I'm older than Friends 2. It's an old TV show.
Yeah, but you can watch that stuff without. You're saying the problem is that it's old. How's that a problem?
Maybe
no, I'm not saying the seventh.
No.
You saw the seventh seal.
Old games are usually hard for me to go back and get into, and part of it is like Metal Gear in particular. They do shit where you need where it plays off the hardware, right? So isn't it hard to fuck with it?
Because a lot of emulators, Green.
Yeah, and in the old Metal Gear games, they do shit like you hold a button
that's just
halfway
the first
down.
One. Come on,
or then they do the thing where you have to unplug and plug into the different.
That's
controller.
Just the first one. The second one doesn't do anything like that, or the third one. Promise.
And Platinum Disc.
Psychomantis does that a bunch.
That's the first one.
Yes.
He talks about your fucking memory card. They don't do that in the second or third. He just says you're playing a game, which doesn't matter what system you're doing it on.
Yeah. Also, I realize that games are horrible. I have a PS4 right here on the thing my computer is under.
Buy the Metal Gear Solid collection for the HD.
I'm in my entertainment center. That's the screen that my projector projects onto. I got a PS4 as a gift when my cousin got a PS5. I spent weeks trying to find games. I realized games are just terrible.
Bloodborne.
Like there are no good games. Yeah, I can play Bloodborne at any time. I just don't want to. I don't know why.
Okay, well,
I tried to play
Dragon's
that.
Dogma? You'd like that. Maybe.
What about
probably
Orcs
would.
Massage?
I have such a fucking.
That's cool.
I have such a hard time with
What about
games in
Corruption
general.
of Champions 2?
But I told Thupa I tried to play
Witcher
that
3.
Dead by
That could
Daylight
be fun
game.
for you.
Necopara Volume 4.
Witcher 3.
Okay.
That'd be good.
I
You can play Elden Ring on PS4 or your PC.
There are a bunch of Sakura games.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll
Okay.
we'll do the games recommendation podcast some other time. I need to go. So
Anyway.
like, what's the closing thing? Do you have
Okay, I'm
anything?
gonna say something I was gonna say earlier. It's on my
Yeah.
list. Let me look at my list real quick to make sure I didn't forget anything. Oh, I completely forgot my relationship with the movie and why. Okay, I'll say that. I'll say that at the end, maybe.
make a
real-
hyperbolic wine chamber for that one. Remember?
What is that again? Is
That
that,
was
a
the-
PCP thing?
Yeah. Remember?
Can we
PCP?
Can we conceptually distance me from the PCP a bit? I have
Okay,
no
fine. You're
formal
more of a-
affiliation with any of those people.
I think
the
you're
informal
more
ones
of
I'm not
a-
that happy with.
Okay, I'll just cut it. I'll just talk about Linkara instead. Channel Awesome. Let's do a Channel Awesome podcast.
You know what? You know what we should just start doing? We should just start doing some podcasts or just live streams and we just fucking talk. We don't edit it, we just talk.
Sure.
That could, because if I can see my face, that makes me more on the ball. I understand what I'm saying because I see my fucking face. It makes me more interesting.
I'm gonna do a VTuber of one of my drawings. Yeah, we'll do that.
That would be us doing a VTuber podcast live stream would be fucking hilarious. Phil,
I mean,
if you have the
know-
technology,
Yeah, I'll send you the drawings, Thupa. And we.
I've come here from nowhere. Across the unforgiving sea.
okay.
He's still singing the fucking song.
No, I'm drafted further and further.
Further and further.
It's all becoming clear to me, right?
You can only
I
talk
love
to
you,
him in
Thupa.
song lyrics.
I hate you, but I love you too. Real quick,
You know what? I'm still in a
gonna
dream,
say-
Snake Eater. To be honest.
real quick. Speaking of dreams,
Yeah.
okay, real
You
quick.
finally found what you were looking for?
Thupa, the more you piss him off, the longer I have to stay here, and I'm fucking starving. Stop, please.
The longer he's fucking muted. But I do want to say about Cowboy Bebop, him being able to undo
laughing
it
his
is,
ass
makes
off,
it
but he's muted.
funnier. But the funny thing is, I'll have his audio later.
Yeah, I know.
I was going to bring up Cowboy Bebop, where I think that one interesting thing is, I talked about this in the Cowboy Bebop thing, Spike is looking for a narrative, and he's looking for a narrative role, and, you know, a cultural calling, something that he can fulfill, and he's desperate to do that, and he jumps into one at the first chance he gets after desperately trying to force one, and then, you know, he seeks death in the fight with Vicious. And Gowan is like the opposite of that, where what he really wants is to just be alive and just have a satisfying, mundane day-to-day life. But the only way he can get that, he thinks, is by fulfilling a cultural role. He's still going. And the
Yes.
culture and the people around him are all giving him a cultural role prepackaged and forcing him into it. And Gowan gets to a point where he's being pushed towards death by this cultural narrative, where Spike has no cultural narrative and he's desperately trying to create one, and he seeks death by doing that. So I just found it funny that they're like the inversion of each other.
Yeah, I agree. I would just like to. Lastly, I would like to recommend that for the thumbnail of this, you find the shot where it's like, I don't know if there's actually a shot with them both in frame of either the Green Knight or Gawain with their weapon held aloft and about to chop the other guy's head, and you can put your you can be the executioner. Like Photoshop your icon over the face of whoever's the executioner in that scene, and then put me or Thupa, the person being about to get their head chopped off. That would be a good thumbnail.
Thupa.
Yeah, okay. Thupa in there, and I can be, I don't know, some onlooker or something.
Some
in the back.
onlooker.
Yeah.
In the back.
Yeah, something like that. Or I'm
something like that.
The executioner has two heads or something.
if you keep showing up, I might make you the official thumbnail maker. You never know. Never know.
I could. I was thinking of doing a little sketch of Goins.
I could do thumbnails.
I could do a little caricature. I could do that. Actually.
Well, it's a joke. Yeah, but
I'll send you one for this one. See, yeah.
I am in a rush of wanting to do this more and more. Build momentum, bring more people in to where I just have the thing going, and it's not always a huge pain to find people. Thupa's still muted. Holy shit! Okay, has to unmute. Okay.
Okay.
And as the actual final thought, Thupa, do you have any last thing to say? Michi, do you have any last thing to say? Thupa, you're still muted, but you can unmute yourself.
I'd say check the movie out if you have like any interest in visuals in movies. Like you owe it to yourself. Like it's a real treat. Aside from all the cool stuff we've talked about, like thematically, character wise, and all that stuff. Just like I would put this movie on like with no audio. On another screen or something, and it's just like fucking feeds my soul for that need for like visual stimulation. It looks amazing. So yeah, I think they did a really great job with this, and everyone should go check it out. It's cool.
That's very cool. Just out of pure sociopathic rage, Thupa is still talking, even though I requested he unmute himself.
I am talking about the way how I get to my favorite McDonald's. God damn it.
I thought you lost that. How do you get to McDonald's with no America?
All right, so
he takes his horse. Goes on a quest.
I will usually go to this shop.
No, please don't make me sit through this.
Okay, Thupa, please don't make me do this.
I will buy a Coke because it's cheaper there.
Do it. Chop his head off.
We go further down the road.
With his fucking head.
He finds it funny when he's the only one who can hear it.
He does.
It's like Gowan. It's literally like Gowan. The knowledge that he's doing it is enough. That makes it real to him. Even if no one will ever know what he's talking about.
Please end my suffering.
Thupa's a transcendent shitposter.
Can I cut out and you get Thupa's statement on his own? Because I don't think he's going to let up.
Do you want to hear the story of me watching this movie the first time, or should we do that another time?
I think I'd appreciate it if you could tell it to me in private, but I was expecting this to be like 2 hours. We're going to put up on 4 hours. I'm sorry.
So was I.
I know. I'm sorry I wasted so much time at the start. And
I didn't even mean you. I didn't even mean you. Like, this just... Okay, I love you too, Thupa. Okay. Green Knight...
I can't give him any confirmation, or he'll just latch on to it.
He just did a little heart.
Okay,
well, I think we need to just cut out at this point. The last 30 minutes are probably going to be cut from this.
Yep.
You have no idea.
Shut the fuck up! Okay, it's over now. Bye, Michi. Go. Happy Memorial Day.
Oh my God! A green knight has just shown up, and I think he's got. Oh my God! He's got an axe. Oh gee! Oh.